Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to call the May 25th, 2017 meeting of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District to order. If we get a roll call, Ms. Marcotte. Hold on. Let the record reflect that all 9 council members are present. Ryan, the battery may be dead on Mr. Roussel's clicker. We'd all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance in prayer. Mr. Landry will lead us in the prayer.
Lord, please bless us all here today and guide us as we come together to make the rules and the laws for this parish and the port. Guide all of the legislators, guide the administration, help us have a good meeting, and bless the people of Plaquemines Parish. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Let the record reflect that the meeting has begun at 1:05 p.m. Item 2, executive session. We have none. We're going to skip item 3 right now. Item 4, bids and advertisements. We have none. We'll move to introductions of ordinance and resolutions. I have one. Actually, I have none. Mr. Lapine?
I have none.
I have none.
Have none.
All right, we have none. I'll go back to item 3, the status report by the Executive Port Director, General Sanders.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman. I am Sandy Sanders, Executive Director of Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District. Follows is my Executive Director's report for the reporting period of 28 April to 25 May. The Parish President and I and Mr. Bobby Thomas with the POBby met with the base commander for breakfast and have instituted a monthly meeting in this manner. In addition to discussing the Naval Air Station Air Show and the back bridge to the base, we talked in a great deal about the submission packet for the commercial air cargo. Bruce Keller, who is the base facilities manager, and I are meeting with the consultants of TMG regarding the packet tomorrow to put some final touches on it. The base commander wanted it to have it in his office by July 1st, so we had 60 days to get it to Big Navy. I have met with the World Group regarding their intentions to become a strategic development partner in the port's quest to build the integrated logistics supply chain throughout the Mississippi River Basin, connecting our port with the entire Midwest. These meetings are ongoing and very positive. We met with the Chinese ambassador to the U.S. in Baton Rouge, briefing he and his staff about the aforementioned project. The ambassador has been tasked to lead a coalition to review infrastructure projects for possible foreign investment. The state of Louisiana is the leader in the United States for foreign investment, and the feedback that we have received from this meeting has been quite positive, but premature to announce in this public forum. The dialogue and meetings are continuing, and meetings are being prepared for the ambassador and our congressional delegation in Washington, D.C. in 2 weeks. I and the principals of American Patriot Holdings had a day-long meeting with Michael Steenhoek. Michael serves as the executive director of the Iowa Soybean Association, and he has also held since 2007 the executive director for the 13-state coalition of all state soy associations. Similar to our meeting 2 weeks ago earlier with Scott Sigmund with the Illinois Soy Association, he is extremely enthusiastic about our project and the distinct advantage the port has by the exclusive partnership with American Patriot Holdings in their paradigm-shifting vessel, and they will operate. He has invited members of our council up to Iowa to come to some of the co-ops to see how the soy is loaded, and he said this would have a major, major impact on his farmers and the price that they cut back on transportation. They're very enthusiastic, and most of the soy that is grown here in the United States is either used for cattle feed locally or it goes abroad. We continue to meet with other entities that are very interested in becoming strategic development partners with the PPHTD project. I will report these as the negotiations mature. They are all covered by NDAs, and when they're ready for more public discussion, I will give you a full report. The chairman, the deputy, and I had a meeting with the Venture Global folks, and once again, their sentiment is satisfactory of the port and the parish's efforts on their behalf. They continue to work their way positively through the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission FERC process, permitting process. I will defer to the chairman if he would like to add anything regarding our meeting.
No, that's fine.
Mr. Chairman and the board, subject to your questions, this concludes my brief.
Thank you. I have Eric Sundstrom on the agenda as well. Eric is in Baton Rouge right now, working hard for us in his lobbying capacity. Paul, I'm not sure if you or Sandy want to give us any kind of updates from what you're hearing on the three House bills that we're concerned about, which is House Bill 444, 456, and 632. 632 is a 17-cent gas tax. House Bill 444 is in reference to the Cameron Parish LNG facility, and obviously 456 is the House bill relating to the Constitutional Convention. So you guys want to give us an update or anything? I know there's been some, I'm not sure I want to use the word progress, but there's been some movement on all three.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The bill that I'm most familiar with is the one that deals with the port and infrastructure and transportation projects. It is what has been referred to as the gas tax hike. The state has not had a hike in this tax for over 20 years. So you can imagine the purchasing power of 20 years ago and what that is like today. Our state is probably 49 or 50 in keeping up with these infrastructure projects. And we are in a worldwide competition for projects, certainly here in the U.S. And so projects that we compete for, we're losing to other states because of the lack of infrastructure. This is very important. Everybody here in this room knows what it's like to sit on Highway 23 when that bridge is up at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. That is a hot project that would be on board to receive some of those infrastructure dollars for repair or replacement. Also, the Peters Road bypass is a very hot project that pertains to our parish. And once again, the funds that would come from the infrastructure would come from DOTD, and DOTD right now is starved for budget money. And this tax hike would go towards those projects in our neighborhood and projects all over the state, transportation projects and port infrastructure projects. In the state of Louisiana, 1 out of 5 jobs is maritime related. So this really has a direct impact on our state, and particularly with our efforts here at the port, it's a hand-in-glove item. It's obviously it's a contentious item because we're talking about a tax hike, and you know there's two different camps: those that never want a tax hike, and those that would vote for a tax hike if they realized that there was some teeth in it, that the money goes to where it's supposed to go. So they're working through that. I believe they have taken it off the floor right now and going to come back to it next week to do a little bit more homework with the members.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're about 15 or 20 votes short, so it may come back on the floor. If not, we'll see. We'll get an update at the next meeting. If anybody has any other comments or questions for...
What's up in the Baton Rouge area on yesterday, the Senate and the 456 bill is moving forward.
Yes.
And like I say, it's got picking up momentum. That's what they told me yesterday
Yeah.
when I was up there about 11 o'clock when I left. So I don't know what transpired after that.
I mean, the words that I'm hearing is it has legs, and it's moving. So that's something that I've been in touch with Eric about. Eric is working on behalf of the port, obviously, but this does affect the parish as well, and that's why we've asked him to work as hard as he can to give us information, see what he can do. But I know the president has asked the council has asked other folks to lobby as well with other representatives and senators to see if we can change the minds or even get this thing amended somewhat. So that's where we're at now, Council Chair and Mr. Russo.
Yes, in regards to 456, it was returned to the calendar this past week and may be scheduled for floor discussion on Tuesday. However, as it may have grown some legs and support last week, I think the time is running out for it to make the entire process. It would have to be an extraordinary effort on behalf of the Senate to get it on the committee and onto the Senate floor in time. So my concerns are growing less as far as how that bill will move. I know that some people were concerned about it. I'm still concerned about it, but I believe that by it being returned to the calendar, not coming back possibly Tuesday, and it could be possibly delayed as well. And Mr. Garrett and I have been in communication on this as well, and he can enlighten and make some comments as well. But, I think that we've handled it properly, and I think that it probably won't see the light of day at the end of the session. But Mr. Garrett can comment on that, because whenever you talk about the legislature, anything could possibly happen.
Mr. Garrett, any comments?
This is kind of like a bit of a freebie. I lobby as part of my practice, and I have clients that are have serious issues worrying about the Constitutional Convention as well. So I have tracked the bill. It seems pretty clear that Representative Abramson doesn't have the 70 votes yet, which is why he returned it to the calendar and then didn't bring it up and set it for this week. So the earliest he could bring it back up would be next week. They're going to be taking Monday off. And so Tuesday would be the earliest. But that does, even if they got the 70 votes then, it still would have to get referred to the Senate, referred to a Senate committee, come out of the Senate committee and come back to the Senate floor unless it was discharged by the full Senate from committee without having to go through the process. So every day that passes makes it a little less likely that it has enough time to get through the process. One of the other bills you mentioned is a pair of bills, House Bill 444 and 445, that have to do, by Representative Seaball, they have to do with a constitutional amendment and a companion bill that allow for entities that levy ad valorem taxes to enter into cooperative endeavor agreements to provide for pilots or payments in lieu of taxes. It's in response to a court decision out of Cameron that struck down an agreement. They said they didn't have the constitutional authority to enter into it. That measure came up those two measures came up yesterday. The constitutional amendment got 63 votes, as did the companion legislation. Of course, the bill passed because it only needed 53, but it was a fairly short House when they took the vote. There was a significant number of people who actually weren't even there, and I suspect that bill will come up probably Tuesday on reconsideration, which is House Bill 444, which is the constitutional provision that would amend the Constitution, resolve the court decision. Of course, that would also have to go over to the Senate, but it's a step further in the fact that it's already had its initial House debate. So it came up 7 votes short. So that's kind of where they are on those two. And I think both sets of legislation are particularly important to any public body that levies ad valorem taxes because they're both going to impact you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Garrett. I think that's all we have on that. Mr. President, you're definitely invited to my next conference call with Mr. Sundstrom to get an update where we're going to stand next week. So I'll let you know as soon as that gets scheduled. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Anyone from the audience? Mr. Henry?
The 17 cents tax bill that's at the legislature, what you're saying is that that money, that 17 cents is going to be dedicated to special projects?
The gas tax hike,
the 17-cent gas tax hike would go into mostly the coffers of the Department of Transportation. They, like many government agencies, they've got more cones than they have ice cream. And right now, at best, they're just putting Band-Aids on projects, and we're not going to be able to move forward and replace aging bridges or tunnels or needed infrastructure ports unless they can come up with that money.
Several years ago, when Buddy Romer was governor and he raised the gas tax, same situation arising now. You know, man, 17 cents. People are suffering out here too. That's a little bit steep. I understand it, but you're making people pay really too much money. That's a lot of money, 17 cents for a gallon of gas, more. Wow. That's not a little bit amount of money, and I hope the legislature look at that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Henry. We'll move to item 6B.
A resolution approving and authorizing Mr. William Black, Port Committee Chairman, Maynard J. Sanders, Port Executive Director, and Shambro Raleigh, Port Comptroller, to execute a Louisiana compliance questionnaire to counterterroring companies, CPAs, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
I'll offer. Ask for a second. Second by Mr. Lapine. Pretty much of a formality. Port.
Yes, sir. It's just the annual questionnaire that we fill out and submit to the legislative auditor stating that we are in compliance
All right,
with
thank
state
you.
statutes.
Thank you. Anyone has any questions or comments? The audience, comments or questions?
Warren Lawrence, one question. Is there any cost involved with this other than we already have a contract with Cametal and it's covered? No cost? Okay.
All right, thank you. No other comments or concerns or questions? We'll go through a vote. And the resolution passes 9-0. 6C.
A resolution authorizing Maynard Sandy Sanders as Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District to enter into an agreement with Trident Holdings, Inc. for the continued implementation of the Port's 2010 Master Plan for 2 years and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
I'll offer and ask for a second. Seconded by Ms. Williams. So basically, this is the renewal of Trident's contract. We've had a lot of discussion over the years in reference to Trident. A year ago, at this time, I asked Trident, when we renewed their contract, to get some things done. We've gotten some things done, although not as much as I have liked to have seen. So what I did was I spoke to all major stakeholders, and I spoke to the executive director and spoke to some members of our council and port committee, and we stripped out a lot of stuff from this contract. I can tell you, as far as the term of the contract, it's 2 years, and it is now going to be capped at $150,000 a year. We have taken everyone out of the contract except for Mr. Bob Stevens. We were asked by our stakeholders to retain him because he is essential to a lot of their deliverables that they need to be met. So we took out Mr. John Vickerman. We took out Bert Kleinpeter. We took out any possibility of any other subcontractors being added to this contract. This is a contract directly with Trident Holdings and Mr. Bob Stevens. So that was really one of the biggest things we did besides the monetary issue. I've asked the stakeholders to get with Mr. Sanders and come up with some clear deliverables that we can measure. So we've asked for those deliverables to be put into the contract. That way we don't have just an open contract without any scope of task. We have 8 specific tasks that we've asked to be put in the contract. That way when we come to renew the contract or terminate the contract, we can make a decision based on the grade. The first one was the selection commitment of a terminal operator. For us, selection, a commitment of a terminal operator for Memphis and St. Louis, upriver port approval for development, ocean carrier cargo commitments, BCO cargo commitments, 3LP cargo commitments, completion of bankable feasibility report, and engaging a project funding partner. So those are 8 deliverables that can be measured. We can grade Trident on whether or not they actually do those and hold them accountable. And if they do not meet those deliverables to our satisfaction, they have no excuse at that point. So we will terminate the contract. And I think this contract, 2 years, also coincides with Mr. Sanders' contract. So I would say that if this passes, there's a lot of work to be done to achieve these deliverables, and I think it puts us all on notice. So I'll open it up for any questions, comments. We had a lot of council members review this contract. I know Mr. Sanders has met with a bunch of them as well. We had some amendments, and those amendments were finalized actually this morning. Ms. Sullivan?
Yes, at 150, is that a firm number, or will that be adjustable?
No, that's our cap.
Okay,
That is our cap.
And I want to commend you for addressing, going back and look at the contract and kind of mitigating some of the things that was included in this contract, because to be honest with you, I'm not 100% satisfied with Ms. Stevens' performance, but I want to see a port develop, and I think, we at least need to give him an opportunity to develop it.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Mr. Rousseau?
Yeah, I also want to thank the chairman and the committee and the director for working in this direction. As you know, I voted against this contract for the last couple of years. However, with all of the changes and the input that we've had into it and resolving some of the disputes that I had in the past contracts, I feel comfortable in voting for it today. So I want to thank you for your cooperation in making these changes.
Thank you, Mr. Rousseau, and thank you for your input as well. Ms. Bartholomew?
Specifically, it states accountability, which is redone, and I support accountability.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the audience? Mr. Lawrence?
Warren Lawrence. That's just a question on the cost difference in the past contract and what is the future contract. Is there savings, and what is the savings? And also, I want to congratulate whoever's responsible for putting some deliverables in a contract. This is something should have been done a long time ago. If we can actually measure what we're getting out of it, it shows the public will have faith in what's going on. This has been a contract that I opposed to all along. And my only question is this a continuation of the old contract, or is this absolutely, it seems like it's a new contract, and was there any other RFP sent out to make it, if there's a comparable source out there to take over this?
Yeah, it's actually just amended. Mr. Sanders, if you want to elaborate a little further on that.
Yeah. Mr. Lawrence, the previous contract was for 300, and this is in half, 150. It is only 2 years, 2 one-year terms. As members of the board and the chairman stated, it has teeth in it. So if deliverables are not met, then that gives the board room for pause, and they can determine what has been done on certain points. If they feel that we're headed in the right direction, they can make that decision to go forward. And if we haven't been able to achieve what we stated we were going after, then they can make the decision to fold the tent. So.
All right, thank you, Mr. Sanders. Any other comments or questions? If none, we'll move to a vote. Let the record reflect that the resolution passes 9-0. We'll move to item 7A1.
Introductions of resolutions wherein a suspension is being sought. 7A1. Resolution authorizing the Port Executive Director, Maynard J. Sanders, for and on behalf of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to name and accept the proposal of the Plaquemines Parish Gazette as the official journal for the Plaquemines Parish Council as the sole governing authority of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
I'll offer. The suspension has been seconded. Go to a vote on the suspension. suspension passes 9-0. Ms. Marcotte?
Would you like me to read the whole document, or just the preamble?
Just the preamble, sir.
A resolution authorizing the Port Executive Director, Maynard J. Sanders, for and on behalf of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to name and accept a proposal of the Plaquemines Parish Gazette as the official journal for the Plaquemines Parish Council as the sole governing authority of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
I'll offer. Ask for a second. Second. Mr. Bartholomew seconds. This is basically another formality, and I apologize for the suspension. I don't like to do suspension of the rules on these things, but I got it pretty late. If any one of you guys want to explain what this is.
Has to be done by June 1st.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just,
By state law, you have to have an official publication, and this just fulfills that obligation. And it's also using local, and our only local paper is the Plaquemines Gazette.
all right. Anybody have any questions? Mr. Russo?
The only question I have is, do we have any other financial arrangements or contracts with any of the principals or individuals of this newspaper?
We have a work as needed on, and that's just for if we have marketing or we have to have any material, then we have to have a contract in place to be able to get that from the Gazette, from the owner of the Gazette, Mr.
Is that for
Benoit.
personal services or that's for purchase of materials?
Personal services? No? Okay. Say what? It's printing services.
So all we do is buy printing services. We don't have a contract with any personal or individual or any arrangement to where they are paid for their time.
No, sir.
All right, Mr. Bartholomew calls for the question. Call the question. Okay, let me get a question. And a resolution passes 9-0. Item 8, please.
Approval of the April 27, 2017 meeting minutes.
I'll offer. Second by Mr. Lapine. And the minutes pass 9-0. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Offered by Mr. Bartholomew, seconded by Mr. Edgecombe. And with a 9-0 vote, Mr. Russo, just anticipating your vote?
Ms. Williams?
Yeah, I can't say. With a 9-0 vote, the meeting is adjourned. We made up some time. It is 1:33. Thank you.
Call the council meeting to order. We're going to dispense with the Pledge of Allegiance and the prayer. This time, I'd like to call the council meeting to order. The machine is open. Nine members of council are present. At this time, at the request of our distinguished colleague, Mr. Roussel, wants to ask us to move to 7G. At this time, 7G. Mr. Roussel?
Yes, we have our HNTB representative in the audience. We've been trying to have this presentation for a month or two now, so I'd like to ask that we proceed with it.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Melissa Kennedy with HNTB, consultant with the parish, hired to support the parish in the levy analysis mapping program in reviewing the work that FEMA is doing on behalf of the parish. So I just want to give an update from where we are from last time I was here. Little background, levy analysis mapping program, just to remind folks, it's a procedure that FEMA is working on for non-accredited levy systems to account for the actual levies themselves in the analysis. FEMA's normal methodology, if a levy is not accredited, it doesn't include the levy itself in their analysis. So this is a way to include the levies and get better base flood elevations and defirm maps. So the whole program, the intent is to get updated flood risk associated with the levies, develop the new maps, and hopefully lower insurance rates to maintain our real estate values. This levy program analysis that FEMA is doing, it's a comparison to what they did back in 2008 when they first did the analysis, again assuming the levies were not in place. So this is the newer updated analysis, and so I'm comparing to what they did previously. They did a preliminary review back in March of 2016. Then based on that review, they went and did their what's called Phase 2 detailed analysis, and that was provided in July of 2016, in which case we reviewed in depth the analysis, the preliminary maps that FEMA came up with, and provided detailed comments to them, and we had a meeting then in October of 2016 to go over our review of that and where we were with them at that point in time, and it got into a lot of technical discussion. Subsequently to that, we had a meeting in February of 2016 to kind of go over some of the concerns that were brought up excuse me, in that October meeting, which had to do with a little bit of higher level FEMA involvement. Since February, we've been waiting to hear back from FEMA. We just only heard back from them back in April 25th, when they finally got back to us since February. So this is where we are today. And this map basically shows the difference in the elevations between the 2008 preliminaries, when no levy was considered in the analysis, and this one, the updated one where the levies were considered in the analysis. And for the most part, you can see that base flood elevations were lowered based on including the levies in the analysis. The area of concern is way up in the north, and that is where we're still concerned. That's the Jesuit Bend area, Oakville to La Recite, in which case FEMA has indicated, based on their new analysis, with the levies in place, the base flood elevations are higher. We have a we have an issue with the fact that the base flood elevations are considered higher with the levies in place as opposed to when the levies were not in place. So we're kind of in a little sticking point right now. So since the last briefing, again, the Jesuit Bend analysis area is of concern, and we're still working on that. Still water level tie-in with Jefferson Parish was also of concern, and how they did the analysis. And the latest information, we're a little more concerned because now the still water levels that they show us directly adjacent to Jefferson Parish are 2 feet higher than Jefferson Parish. So that has posed some concern. The other area that has been brought up is the Bell Chase area. But I'd like to point out the Bell Chase area was not included in this analysis because that levee system has been certified. It is accredited. The concern is that the mapping is not finalized because the FEMA will not finalize all the maps until the entire parish program analysis is completed and they've developed the maps for the entire parish. That is an issue that is being worked internally with the parish administration. The other thing that came up in the review was the river base flood elevations. FEMA did not address those. They said those are controlled by the Corps, so those stay as they are. And then the other area were that some Zone AE areas were designated in the marsh as opposed to Zone VE areas, meaning an AE area does not require a structure to be put up on like stilts. A Zone VE does because of the wave height. You want the waves to be able to go underneath the structure. So there's concern that they were allowing Zone AEs out in the marsh. And they said that to account for that, the parish can adopt what is called a coastal zone A ordinance, in which case they can dictate the building requirements for that area. So again, the concern here, one of the main concerns has been the Jesuit Bend area. Right now, the current base flood elevations that they're showing are between 8 and 10 feet. The preliminaries showed between 7 and 9 feet. And again, this is the difference with the levee system there and the levee system not being there. So we think it does not make sense that the base flood elevations are higher with the levee system in place. So we've questioned the methodology that FEMA chose to use. There are multiple methods that they can use depending on the type of levee that's in place, the condition of it, et cetera. And considering that that levee was just completed by the Corps, we know it's a good levee. We know the design criteria utilized, so we believe that there's a different methodology that FEMA should utilize to evaluate that system. The reason they did the method they did is because it gives anything outside the special flood hazard area, they considered then a zone D, which means that it's an undetermined elevation, and in coastal Louisiana, that can mean a higher insurance rate than a determined elevation. This is a bone of contention with the state. They have written a letter to FEMA requesting more information on this Zone D, requesting some guidance, and that was submitted well over a year ago, and FEMA has not responded yet. They're saying that the letter is currently in their office of counsel. So that is still of concern. Let's go to the next slide. I just want to show you. This is the Jesuit Bend area, and this was one of the very preliminary analysis FEMA did. It was a different methodology. It was called a overtopping methodology, which considered the levees in place at a certain elevation, which they are at this point in time. And that blue, the dark blue, shows what the water surface elevations were with an overtopping. And it's less than a foot. So what they were saying, based on this very preliminary analysis, and I'm not saying this is correct, this was just a preliminary analysis they did as an option to be used for being applied to the Phase 2 analysis. The remaining area within the Jesuit Bend polder would then have been considered a Zone D. So at the time, because people were concerned about Zone D and it possibly being a higher insurance rate than one with a designated elevation, they chose not to use that methodology. But we are now questioning that and saying, well, maybe the Zone D isn't as bad as everyone thinks. We're still waiting for guidance from FEMA. And then the other thought that one of our technical reviewers suggested that you can see that with this preliminary analysis, and I'm not saying that's necessarily correct, but that water elevation is way lower than 8 to 10 feet. So we were suggesting, well, then if you have only a foot, then just apply the foot across the entire polder instead of the 8 to 10 feet. So we're still going back and forth with FEMA on that. We have our next scheduled activity is to coordinate a call or a meeting between FEMA and the parish to discuss this issue as well as flood insurance program issues that the parish has. So that's kind of where we are on this whole Jesuit Bend issue. Again, the other one was the still water level tie-in with Jefferson Parish. They provided information. We have subsequently submitted comments. And again, our next focus is to have this meeting with FEMA. So once we have this meeting with FEMA, the intent, what FEMA said is they can revise their methodology, but they said due to where they are in their contracting with their current consultant, they said they couldn't get it done under this current contract. They would have to wait till they get their new consultant under contract, which I was informed would not be until next year. I don't know if that is next fiscal year or calendar year. Fiscal year would be October, calendar year would be January. I'm not really sure. So that could possibly delay the analysis that we're requesting. I don't know that I agree that it needs to wait till then. We have questioned why it needs to wait until this new contract, considering the current contract's not ending until September, so we've got time in there, so I didn't understand that. But that is what FEMA's telling us, so it is something that we need to discuss with them. The whole point is, once we get everything in agreement, we're in agreement with the methodology and the results and the maps, then it goes out for a review process. And that's 3 months, then the preliminary maps are issued, and it can take up to 20 months after that for implementation. The reason we're being so particular is if we accept the maps and the data as it is now and we don't agree, it puts the onus then on the parish to go in and do analysis and change it and then go through what's called a LOMAR, letter of map revision process. So that then that will basically cost the parish money. And I don't think we want to do that. We'd like FEMA to go ahead and complete the process. So that is what I have.
Okay. Any questions from the table?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Burke?
Ms. Kennedy, thank you for your presentation. And can you please explain again what that Zone D represents?
It's considered beyond the flood area that's mapped based on their analysis. The rest of the area, which would be flooded considering the levees not in place. So first they do analysis pretending the levees aren't in place. And what's that area? So they define that area. And pretty much since all Plaquemines are polders, kind of like bathtub defines areas, the whole area within the Jesuit Bend would be considered flooded at some elevation. But when you do this different methodology, you determine the actual flood zone elevation and the extent of that within the area, and then the rest of that area is considered, outside of that, considered Zone D. Theoretically, it should be less than the flood zone elevation, but because it's considered an undetermined zone, and because southeast Louisiana is so flat, it has been suggested that insurance rates, because it's undetermined, they can't apply a normal rate to it. So they're saying those rates could be higher. I don't know for a fact if that is really true.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first I'm ever hearing of a Zone D, and I represent the majority of this district, and, you know, this is the first I'm hearing of it. And, you know, whatever I need to do to be a voice, I would like to be included in any future meetings along with the administration.
Okay. All right.
You know, like I said, this is the first I've heard of a Zone D, and, you know, this is absurd, actually.
And if, there is, like I said, there was a letter drafted by the state to FEMA, and I'm easily over a year ago, and when I talked to them in February, they said it was still in their Office of Counsel, so they haven't gotten back to us on guidance.
I mean, does this even take into accountability the back levee that was just raised to 11-plus feet?
Well, that's what I'm saying. The way they did their methodology for this area, it doesn't take into account, it doesn't really. It's called a natural valley method, and they did that methodology so that they didn't have to have this Zone D. And we're saying, well, maybe the Zone D isn't as bad as you think, or a different methodology will give us a lower elevation, and even if it's, you know, significantly lower, apply it to the whole thing and forget Zone D anyway. That's a thought. I don't know if they would do that. That was one of our comments back to them. We submitted those about 2 weeks ago, and we have not heard back yet.
Thank you.
Mr. Roussel? Mr. Roussel, yield to Ms. Williams.
I know the land program that y'all were looking into specifically was initially the Jesuit Bend area.
It was for the
does
whole.
Does it include all the way to the end, the
Yes.
parish throughout?
It includes the entire parish beyond the areas of the
floodgate.
levees that were certified, which is essentially south of Belle Chase to the end.
Okay, and the Zone D, that's in, this specific Zone D, that's in all areas of the parish? Or is that
Actually, no, because they
specifically
did
just-
what they call this natural valley method, so they came up with the base flood elevations. So none of them have Zone D right now. The only concern is the Jesuit Bend area because it went up in base flood elevations instead of going down.
Okay, thank you.
What is that base flood based on that right now?
The preliminary showed it about 7 to 9 feet. Right now, they're showing it with their new analysis 8 to 10 feet, which is significant considering there's a levee, like you said, that was just built.
Is there a benefit to the area by
In
elevating the levee?
In the Jesuit Bend area, no, not at this time, no. That's why we're questioning the methodology. There's different methods they can utilize to do the analysis, and that's what we're saying. They did not use a method that takes into account the levee system that was recently constructed to the way it was constructed. Right now, it doesn't meet certification accreditation criteria because it's not high enough for technically the 100-year. But otherwise, it's it's a stable levee. The Corps just built it. You know their criteria is very conservative.
Right. Sam?
So taking into consideration that the levee was not in the model, did they take into consideration any of the land building efforts like Bayou DuPont net as well?
Yeah, the marshes and et cetera, the marsh creation projects, yes. Those are all taken into consideration. We provided all that data to them.
But not the levee?
No, we provided the levee
No, but the
information
levee,
too.
I'm asking the question is what was taken into consideration? Was the marsh project taken into
Yes.
consideration, but the levee was not taken into
So
consideration?
the levee was not taken into consideration in terms of, it's hard to describe the methodology. It has to do with also their waves analysis and wave run-up and whatnot. So they didn't really do that because they said this method, it's just like they're assuming the whole Stillwater elevation extends through the whole polder.
To the Mississippi River?
Yes.
And so,
Or to the Mississippi River levee.
levee. So carrying on this, there's been some effort in the area to get that levee up to 100-year protection, and your company has been involved in that?
That is correct.
And so where do we stand on the elevation difference between what's there now and what we might need to go to?
That is what we're trying to determine right now. And I just, what we had requested was all the backup data from the preliminary analysis that FEMA did in 2008, and I just received that last week. So we're just looking at that. We have to take that information into consideration. We have to do what is called a wave analysis to determine how much waves will overtop or could overtop and come up with the elevation of what the levee needs to be raised to.
And so looking at the long-term picture, this process will probably go on for a couple of more years?
It could, yes.
And the other question I have is there any downside to us adopting flood maps within the 100-year protection area?
No, I wouldn't say there's a downside. It's just that you can adopt them as a parish, but because FEMA still is the overall responsible program for the NFIP program, they won't recognize them in terms of insurance.
But there's no downside that you know of?
No.
So once again, I've
Well,
asked...
I shouldn't say that. I should
But
let Mike...
wouldn't that be detrimental to the areas outside of the 100-year protection?
No.
I think that it would, because you said a while ago that they won't recognize it, you have to adopt it as for the parish as a whole. So the Belle Chase area is within the 100-year protection, but the other areas aren't.
But FEMA won't recognize the Belle Chase as in the 100-year elevation until they do the mapping for the whole parish.
For the entire parish.
So, like I said, the parish can adopt and regulate their floodplain and do their ordinance as they see fit. But for insurance purposes, it relies completely
It wouldn't
on
make a
FEMA.
difference.
So it doesn't matter, because FEMA's not going to recognize it.
Right, and the reason I asked that is because I know we've adopted one flood map so we could build Port Eads. Now, we have done it, and there's a precedent for doing it. And my conversation with Congressman Scalise is that if they're going to renew an NFIP program, I'd like to see us adopt, and I've asked Mr. Metcalf to provide us with language to be able to adopt those flood maps within the 100-year protection so that the NFIP renewal legislation through Congress perhaps could mandate that we maybe recognize those maps, since they spent billions of dollars to put us in a 100-year protection system, and we still don't have the benefit of it going on 12 years later.
I'm going to let Mike respond to that one.
Well, first off, Councilman Russo, we can adopt, as you and I have discussed on several occasions, we can adopt north of the flood wall, essentially in a 100-year floodplain, in the same manner as we adopted the grid at Port Eads, which is for regulatory purposes only, and that's why that grid was also adopted, to bring us into compliance with FEMA regulatory requirements. Now, what it would do in the area north of the flood wall would be the immediate effect it would have, impact would be strictly for regulatory purposes. Elevation requirements for substantial improvement, new construction, et cetera. But unfortunately, and you and I have met with FEMA several times and talked to them, we're not getting what we really want to hear as far as it affecting insurance rates. They've gone on record saying that it will not affect insurance rates until we adopt them parish-wide or across the entire jurisdiction community.
No, I keep hearing the message. I understand the message. I don't agree with the message. However, I'm looking to try to change something. To affect change, it doesn't do me any good to sit here and have this presentation year after year after year without trying to affect some type of change. And if it includes going through Congress or wherever we have to go, I think that we need to at least try to make the effort. So I would like to see us have the language that you are proposing, that FEMA is reviewing, come to this table, let us adopt those flood maps within the 100-year protection, and then let's move forward and see what we can accomplish, rather than sitting here waiting for the next 2 years for you to come back and give us another report, and if the report doesn't change, we've done nothing but sit here. And I can't sit here and do nothing.
So just so you and the council and the administration will know, I have this week sent the language that I am proposing to amend our local floodplain ordinance that would in fact adopt the 100-year floodplain on the West Bank. The language has to be approved by FEMA, which it's in the process of being done now. As soon as I hear back from them to see if they have issues or if there's anything I need to change, I'll keep you and the council and, of course, the administration up to speed. And if it is the direction of the administration of the council that we do a partial adoption, then we will be ready to do it. We'll have the proper language in place.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the table? Mr. President?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Bartholomew. And Councilmember Roussel, you bring up a good point. As many of you know, the NFIP program will expire September 30th of this year. And to give a little bit of a background on the history, the Big Waters Act, which extended this program a few years back, had no assurance of affordability in it. That led to 2014, there was an amendment in Congress, the Grim Waters Act, that added an affordability aspect into the NFIP program. Now that debate is raging on. As I reported to you at one of my prior meetings, I met with Congressman Scalise and the chairman, Chairman Duffy, of the House subcommittee in Washington, D.C. on this issue. And that's another reason why at this time, our parish government, our people of Plaquemines Parish, do not have a lobbyist in Washington, D.C. looking after our interests there. I mean, naturally, we are working with our congressional delegation, but Congressman Scalise has a lot on his plate, and there's many other, I don't know of any other parish. Right now, I know Orleans, Jefferson, St. Charles, they all have lobbyists for their local parish governments. And so that's another reason why I would ask that we rehire, because for the prior at least 10 years, I know parish government had a lobbyist in D.C.
Well, I appreciate your comments and all, but, in the lack of a lobbyist, I think that we ought to make an effort. We hire people every day, and sometimes we get results, sometimes we don't, but now we don't have a lobbyist. So having said that and agreeing with you that we don't have one, I cannot sit here and do nothing, as I stated, and I would hope that we would have a relationship with our congressional delegation and senators to be able to convey that directly to them and work with their staff. Now, I agree that it's not like a paid lobbyist walking the hill, but we haven't had a paid lobbyist in Washington for a long time because the guy that we were paying wasn't a lobbyist.
Any other comments from the table? Audience?
Hi, Sharon Brennan. Just real quick about the lobbyist. Our port has a lobbyist. Just so you know, we're spending about $85,000 a year on a lobbyist for the port. But what I want to ask is, especially, and Charlie, please, Mr. Burt, excuse me, if you could help me. In July or August of last year, there was a Jesuit Bend meeting where HNTB did a presentation, and they were explaining to us, to the concerned citizens, because we're always afraid we're going to lose flood insurance completely. And I understand, Mr. Russo, you want to wrap this up so that the folks inside the wall can have cheaper flood insurance. But for the rest of us outside of the wall, it's a difference between flood insurance or no flood insurance. So it's not. But anyway, at that meeting, I learned that we paid HNTB about $3 million to study the levee, and right now the levees, you've crossed the ferry, you can see how high the water is. Well, if you crossed in Belchase, you should go back home down the road. Take the Point Lahash ferry, because you're going to see that the water line is very close to the top of the river. But at any rate, after $3 million of consulting with HNTB last year, they said that the levees in Belchase needed to be, in Jesuit Bend, needed to be raised 6 to 12 inches. Am I remembering correctly?
You're correct. Yeah.
To get us to the point for FEMA. Because I remember thinking 6 to 12 inches isn't going to really help. And then somebody said, no, calm down. It'll help on paper so that FEMA can check the boxes they need to check. So I'm like, okay, fine. Raise our levee 6 to 12 inches. We spent $3 million to find this out. And now I'm hearing that that's not.
I'm just as shocked as you. That
Thank
was the
you.
first time I heard
So it isn't just me.
No.
So I'm thinking it's made to, I guess, if I were in a classroom and summarizing the main idea, is that suddenly now we want to make it look like levees anywhere else is an impossibility. And it's going to take so long that these folks inside the levee wall need to be protected, and they need not be penalized for the safety of the rest of us. That's my takeaway.
Let me give you some more information, Ms. Brandon. You could talking about the port has a lobbyist. He is not a lobbyist. He does not lobby the Congress. He's not a lobbyist. He's a consultant. Not allowed to lobby the Congress. So I want that distinction to be made, just as it was stated a minute ago that we've always had a lobbyist. We haven't always had a lobbyist, and we don't have one now.
I'm not pro lobbyist against lobbyists. That was just an aside, just an observation about the comment that was already on the floor. That wasn't the reason I came to the mic.
Well, I understand, but I just want to make it clear, that I've heard this statement saying we have a lobbyist for the port many, many times, and it's not a lobbyist.
Yes, Warren Lawrence. I know all of y'all understand everything that was said, but I'm confused. I mean, this whole presentation is just like Greek. The only thing I get out of it is that our problem is with FEMA. And if FEMA don't want to approve it, it don't get approved. I'm assuming we don't have a lobbyist, and that's just another way of paying off somebody to represent you. And, that's another cog in the wheel. But I'm assuming we belong to the state of Louisiana, and I'm assuming the state of Louisiana has a lobbyist in Congress that should be lobbying for every parish in this state. It's not just Plaquemine Parish. This does not make sense that if we have an approved levy system and they got to wait till the whole thing's finished, they paid for that section of levy. It was approved and accepted. I think it's time that we get, whether it's our senators and everyone else, to bring to this table right here someone from FEMA to address this council and explain. I mean, like today, we hear about a D. I don't know if it's a dam or what it's for, but this is another new cog in the wheel. I'm saying we have to bring somebody here to talk to us and tell the public what is the common sense behind the application. And how do we do that? Whether it's, I guess if you protest and you go before the council and ask the senators for our area, for Louisiana, and Scalise and anybody else to come in and give us some assistance in demanding that FEMA come in here and get us a written reply. If Mr. Metcalf has something he's submitting, ask the senators and the representatives from the federal level to ask it to be expedited, because they will sit on it for 20 months or however they want to do. But if you go to them, remember, their allocation for appropriations comes through Congress. They're the ones to answer it. So just get it off center and do something about it.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Black?
Yeah, I just want to clarify a little bit on the port and who we employ as, if you consider him a lobbyist, advocate, a facilitator. It doesn't really matter to me at this point. What that gentleman does, he's helped out the parish. He's helped out the port. The port's initiative is to have federally protected levee system for Myrtle Grove South. It only behooves the port. The port is very active in working with the Corps, whether it be in lobbying Congress or being an advocate with the Corps of Engineers to have a federally protected levee system to provide that protection for the critical infrastructure that we will provide via Venture Global, via the container terminal, etc. So the port is working very hard through the people that we contract out, whether they're lobbyists, advocates, or facilitators at both the state and national level, to get this parish federally protected levee systems, period. So we can mince words or whatever else, but that's what the port is doing to help out, because it helps the port. And ultimately, I've been saying this for the longest time, is once those things become viable projects, the federal government will recognize that they need to be protected. And that's when Congress makes decisions to spend money to protect that critical infrastructure. That's all I have.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to speak to the woman about the Jesuit Bend project. As a representative of HNTB, and I actually am the project manager on that project, you're right, they did tell you 6 to 12 inches, I believe. I wasn't at the meeting, but that was based on FEMA's preliminary analysis. That's what we think. We still have to go through the analysis, the wave analysis, to determine if that information is correct. We're hoping that most of the levee meets FEMA's criteria currently, and that only a portion of it will need to be raised. That's what we're thinking, but we have to go through all the analysis to confirm that or verify it or change it if that is not true. The other thing is that you have to go through, because it's a core levy, you have to go through the Section 408 process, which is an incredibly daunting process, and prove to the Corps that what you're doing meets all their criteria, et cetera. So it's a lot of work that otherwise you wouldn't normally have to do. So I just, and it's not all done yet. So that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation.
Next, please. Oh, I'm sorry, hold on.
Mr. Russo, I congratulate you on this. You know, when we like the only parish left with these flood map deals. And, you know, as a homeowner, come this year when the exemption is over for the biggest water act, and everybody be getting them high insurance bills. Somebody's going to have to answer something because people need to start waking up. This is a very important issue. It's really going to affect a lot of homeowners in this parish. Those maps not there, the exemption go away this year. Insurance rates going to go up. And I imagine you guys going to get a whole lot of calls.
Any other comments from the audience? This time, we move to
7D.
Yeah. Mr. Powell.
District 1 update, Councilmember Bartholomew.
Good afternoon, distinguished members of the council. My name is Michael Powell, Public Information Officer for Plaquemines Parish Government, and just acting facilitator for economic development and tourism currently. We've operated without a true economic development department or a true proactive plan of action for some time now. As of last year in November, the department was defunded, and some of the responsibilities, including phone calls, emails, have all been forwarded to the Public Affairs Department. It's no secret we are facing manpower issues, and before the department was even disbanded. It's now that I found out about Point Management Group. Getting context through our Economic Development Department. Point Management Group has worked with different departments such as Alabama State University, the Oregon Department of Transportation, LADOTD, and they've even done work for economic development in the Lake Charles area. From reading their history, I felt that a presentation from Point Management Group would be beneficial for spurring economic development on the East Bank that is desperately needed. Also with small business development. They have a great history. I want to introduce Mr. Wendell Point from Point Management Group, and we'll have a short presentation to present to you guys.
Good afternoon. Thank you for your time. I won't take too much time with this here. We just wanted to introduce ourselves. My name is Wendell Point, Point Management Group. We were out of Virginia, but we have an office here in Louisiana, and we have one in Lake Charles as well as New Orleans. I'd like to introduce my team members here who are with me, who will be on the ground here, Mr. Khalid Gross and Ms. Benita Johnson, if y'all can see over here. Just to let you know, going to the next slide here, we just want to give you a brief introduction as to who we are, what we do, and some of the key outcomes we have based on our experience in Louisiana, as well as our experience with mega projects in other states. We worked in 19 different states, doing both policy work, small business inclusion, and workforce development. Next step. Okay, just some of the areas that we worked in. We're a corporate leader in energy, housing development, FEMA. We just heard a little about FEMA. I used to be a budget and finance director for the Department of Transportation, statewide maintenance program, which we're responsible for coordinating efforts with FEMA, airports, ports, as well as small business inclusion. To date, we have the distinction of being the small business with the most, who's involved with the most projects in terms of dollar values, $120 billion. That includes the Southwest Louisiana, our Maryland transportation projects, and so forth. We've been recognized by both Commerce and both Department of Energy for best practices for workforce and small business inclusion. But the Commonwealth of Virginia, we're a part of the team that was awarded the Constructor of the Year for Virginia. And that was due to our efforts of exceeding our small business goals on that project by $34 million. We had 100, so we knocked it out the park. And also we have an office located here in Delgado Community College. They're one of our partners. In terms of our Louisiana team members, we have over 45 years of experience here in small business and also workforce development. Ms. Khalid Gross is a former supply diversity manager for the city of New Orleans. Ms. Benita Johnson has done a lot of work in corporate training and is also working on our mega projects in Virginia.
We have a unique awareness of our business community here in Louisiana. But it's been embedded here prior to Katrina, working with LADOTD in terms of mapping out the processes there, to working with the Lake Charles community as well as other communities around the state. So we have a very good understanding of both local and state and federal best practices when it comes to these areas. Next. Our past experience, I already talked about us being embedded here in Louisiana. We consider this our home as well. Matter of fact, Khalid lives here. We also establish a constant presence. We usually go into the area, hire from the area, try to leave a positive legacy in the area, as well as our relationships moving forward. In terms of the supportive services here, we contribute to a lot of the areas. In Lake Charles, I see that your area is very similar to Lake Charles and that you have an aggressive growth plan. We need to get communities, both individuals and businesses, ready for those opportunities. We looking at your master plan, we saw there were some unique issues that we see both here in this parish as well as we're seeing in other areas. In terms of here, losing coastal surface area, you have dislocated workers. There are going to be a significant economic, both positive and negative economic impacts. We just heard about the gas tax and so forth. So training our individuals and businesses. The business that they might have been in or the area that they are focusing as an employee might need to change based upon the projections. Like the growth here, 36% in your plan here, next 10 years. That's aggressive. Venture Global, we're coordinating some efforts down in Cameron Parish with Venture Global. That starts in 2018. So we need to start now. We should have started yesterday. But to make certain that we have people and businesses, individuals positioned for those projects. Construction of coal handling operations. We're also working on the coal project. That's the Coalfield Expressway up 460 project. So we know how that process works. We know the impacts and what's needed from both an employment perspective as well as from a small business support service perspective. Your aspirational goals here. We see this and we understand it about the coastal restoration. We've already heard that. You want to have a robust and healthy economy. We need to bring that economy back and make it more robust than what it is today. Quality of life. Every locality wants to have a good quality of life here. Mobility, transportation, safety is another area, access to community and recreation facilities, and housing options. Okay? Our proposed services here is to establish a relationship, whether it be through a P3 agreement, a cooperative endeavor agreement, or whatever, to work with Plaquemines Parish to champion small business and economic growth in the area, to educate and position individuals. By working here in Louisiana, we know that there's some federal requirements, state requirements, parish requirements, and then there's some police jury and other local requirements. A lot of small businesses and individuals aren't aware of those, as well as training options. How do we train our individuals, our populace here, to be positioned for some of that work that's coming through here? The more people we get employed or get contracted, the more tax revenue we have coming into the city, to the parish. So this is what we want to do here, just to do these type of activities, and then also at the end, these are some of our partners that we work with. Secretary Don Pearson is planning to send a letter of endorsement or a letter of support for us providing services to the parish. We help them write the initial business requirements for the rollout of the business connector. There's still some items there we want to see changed or amended, but we're trying to help them statewide with that. We talked about LPF, we've got Delgado, Small Business Administration, Delgado Community College, and the Workforce Commission. We have all contacts with them. They've all supportive of us coming into the area, coordinating with them, coordinate their services. Because like we've seen in the past with other areas, we have services that are siloed. We don't have a coordinated entity to ensure that the individuals or firms know where to go to, know how to utilize those services, and no one's reporting the outcomes. You have to report the outcomes in terms of what are you getting for your buck there. Next. So our action plan here is to, again, seek an agreement. We've talked a lot with some of your membership here. With that, we need to identify some resources and some funding there. We need to pursue those resources in other areas, local, state, federal. Then when we start doing that, we have to start looking at the supply chain needs for industry, whether it be ports, whether it be for constructors, whether it be for housing development. People forget that I tell people all the time, imagine when you're riding down the street, what is needed to develop that area? And they said, well, I said we need, if you have a road, you might need asphalt, you might need riprap, you might need aggregate. On the side of the road, what you have there, you have seeds, temporary and permanent seeding. You have fencing. You go into the facility, what do you have? You have the security officers there, you have badges, you have supplies. So we're looking at services, constructors, professional and non-professional, the workforce that's needed, anything in that supply chain. We're here to help identify that and position people to be able to participate in those economic activities. We'll manage that process there. We report out to the parish because this is your project, your product. We're here to supply the effort, the bandwidth behind that. And also, just to be able to navigate that, because we found this in other areas. I'll give you an example. In one parish I was at, we had a firm and an individual. They came in and said, we came here, we noted there are some services here. Who do we talk to? And then I said, okay, have you spoken to this person, that person, this person? Well, I didn't know I could go to them. Yes, you can. I'll walk you there. It's a firm. He said, I've been coming to this organization, to these services that are here in the parish, but I can't get to the contractors. Because we work with contractors, we know the language, I go out there, we say, okay, give me the person I need to talk to. Don't send me somebody out of state, somebody here at this facility so we can have someone they can talk to. Not just the first level person, get a card and put it in the pocket and call it a day. So I got on the phone. I called this gas and liquid project, the director there, one of the project manager, excuse me. And I said, I want to send this firm over there. We vetted them. They have all these. They have X, Y, Z in terms of their experience and their registrations. We got them into a meeting. After a couple of meetings with them, I went to the one with them and followed up. That firm got a contract. Another individual got hired. They need to have that person they can, the organizations, the large constructors can relate to in terms of mitigating that risk, assessing the firms up front, vouching for them, and getting them prepared and positioned to be able to participate in the work that's coming through. With that, I say thank you for your time. I hope we can do some work together. I see it's a worthwhile effort, and this is a passion of ours.
Thank you. Any questions from the table? Audience?
Hi. At the PABI leadership meeting yesterday, Bo came up with this great idea that we need to bring back our economic development director, and he suggested that Mike Powell might be a good idea. Then Mike Powell comes up and introduces himself as the acting director, and I'm scratching my head and saying, wait a minute, the president can't suggest jobs or changes, but council people can. But you say, oh, you want to see a whole redevelopment, blah, blah, blah. Well, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If the president, I have the floor. If the president can't introduce a job without having a whole reorganization to your liking, then might I suggest that a council person can't suggest a job without a whole reorganization plan to be proposed. And then on the heels of that, we get a presentation from a consultant, because we all know that you can hire a consultant for up to $50,000 without having to get approval of the council or anything else. So now we have this consultant that comes in out of Shreveport that's going to help us with our economic development. And I'm sorry, but in the state of Louisiana, you cannot get any further away from Plaquemines Parish than Shreveport.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilman Black.
Thank you. Mr. Powell, come up to the mic. So we're going to clarify. Hold on, Sharon.
But I didn't get my whole 5 minutes, so I'm not going to leave the mic unless I can.
I'll let you respond, because your response is probably going to be an apology.
All right. So,
Mr. Powell, hold on. Let me ask the question.
Sure.
When's the last time you and I have spoken since prior to yesterday morning?
Never.
Okay. Have you and I spoken since yesterday?
No, sir.
Okay. Sharon, this is mere coincidence. She was at the meeting with me. We're making faces at each other like, wow, have we heard that before? Because, yes, yesterday at Plaquemines Leadership Council, I did say, and I haven't even spoken to the president about it yet. I haven't spoken to anybody in the administration yet. I did say at the Plaquemines Leadership Council, when the question was asked about economic development and why was it defunded, and I said specifically that I did not vote to defund it, it was about the personnel, and we needed the right personnel in that position, but I do agree that we needed economic development. Then I made the suggestion that I have been on my high horse for about 6 months to a year about reorganization, okay? And I even told Mr. Powell, take it back to your boss and let him know what I said, because what I said was, during that reorganization, we should consolidate public affairs and economic development, and Michael Powell, I think, would be a great candidate for that. And I would support the consolidation of those two positions into one position and pay that position appropriately. That's all I said. I hadn't had a conversation with Michael Powell prior to that with anything. I hadn't had a conversation with Michael Powell after that meeting. This is the first time I heard of it. My face and her face and everybody else's face that was in that building was as shocked as you are. So if you want to apologize to me for jumping on me for something you're making an assumption of, I'll accept it. Otherwise, we'll go on. But
let me say this right quick. This presentation was a request of District 1 for economic development. It's not an ongoing thing with anything else. It's just trying to bring out what is needed. And whatever else this council, for as legislation is concerned, to implement the program, so be it. But this is all this is. We don't need to get in a negative confrontation here.
Right. And to clarify myself, since the
wait, Mr. Brandon.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Then you, Mr. Powell.
You're right, Bo, and I do apologize. I did jump to conclusions, and for that I do apologize, because you are absolutely right that it can be an innocent where you started this idea, but consider the possibility that maybe you're being played.
Mr. Powell.
I didn't say director, I said facilitator, because since that position was deleted, emails from economic development and responsibilities of economic development and tourism, phone calls, all get forwarded to Michael Powell. And so I've taken countless phone calls, countless emails, and had countless requests that fall under economic development and tourism. All mail, everything goes directly to Public Affairs Department from economic development and tourism. So I've operated in a bit of a gray area for the past 6-7 months or so since that budget hearing in November, because there hasn't been a level of clarity on what the responsibilities lie, because they all have come to my department. So if a consultant or whoever would normally contact economic development and tourism, contact my phone, because everyone says, oh, Michael Powell's the guy you need to speak to. So this is how we are at where we are now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Powell. I think now we have a direction that we need to move in and get some stuff done. I'll stand. I'm giving Ms. Audrey her stuff right now. Ms. Solvent?
Yeah, we shouldn't be washing our dirty linen in front of guests. But my take on all of this is that it was suggested some months ago that we need to do a comprehensive overall restructuring of the government. That didn't take place. We're back to my word, my family's word, cherry picking. But then again, I never heard the Civil Service Department. I'm having difficulty with all of this, the recommendation and all of this foolishness. So why isn't it? But I don't want to go any further, because we have guests here.
One thing I'd say is thank you for your time. Regardless of which way you go, I would just say this, based on past experience, we need to get something done. We need to get something done now, because as I've seen in other parishes, particularly Lake Charles, they were 2 or 3 years behind the curve, and it's affected the firms as well as the individuals seeking employment down there. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Russo?
Yeah, just before you go, from your presentation, it's more like you're a facilitator to provide services and goods to the government?
We'll provide. We do it both ways. We are a representative for both the city, state, or federal government. We do it that way, as well as we're on the constructor side on other projects as their DBE Small Business Program Manager. On that project in Maryland, we're responsible for $500 million of small business spend, the $2.8 billion project.
And so to clarity in my mind, you would follow the public bid laws like anybody else in
Yes.
providing those services, or you just make the connection to the government?
We do it both ways, sir. Either way, depending on what the contract is for that county, state, or local government, we'll follow those laws and those requirements. So I need to sit down with whomever and go over that to make certain that we are compliant. That's one thing we want to do because we are affecting law. We're actually affecting policy. If there's a policy out there for inclusion or an aspirational goal, we're out there working on behalf of the small businesses, on behalf of it, either for the client or for the contractor. But the goal is here is that because small businesses and individuals are concerned about raising issues or talking on behalf or advocating for whatever, we do that. We take the hit for them. We don't give their names out. We make certain that it is covered and make certain there's a level playing field moving forward for those to make sure everyone participates.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President?
Thank you, Chairman Bartholomew, and thank you for inviting the gentleman to make this presentation. To make the record clear, though, Ms. Brannon, this is the first I'm hearing of this as well. I believe Councilman Black spoke to Mr. Powell before I have, speaking yesterday, so I haven't. I enjoyed the presentation, though, but this is the first I'm hearing of it.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Mr. President, man, come on, you got to get on board here. Mr. Point, you had a brilliant presentation, sir. Thank you.
Next item, please.
6A2, an ordinance to amend and amended to readopt Section 4 of Ordinance Number 142, the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance of Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as amended in the Comprehensive Zoning District Map therein adopted by reference, and which is paired thereto with reference to application number 2017-220 dated November 17, 2016.
I'll offer.
Second by Councilman Lapine, offered by Councilman Black.
Basically, this is the tract of land off of F. Edward Bear that we previously approved for right-of-way. All this is a zoning change from A1 to R1B. That was voted 9-1 at the zoning board as a recommendation. This is also in the same compliance with, I'm sure Mr. Bartholomew and Mr. Juneau remembers when they were on the replanning board. So that's all this is. This does not, we talk about that neighborhood, this does not allow any development. It's not an approval of a subdivision. Those are two extra steps that have to come. This is basically just going from A1 to R1B.
Any other comments from the table? Any other comments from the table?
I have
Mr. Russell?
As I stated before in this subdivision, this is a subdivision that we have given up a piece of property by the courthouse for the entrance. I appreciate your efforts to try to reconfigure the parking on the side and all. However, this is going to be a subdivision. No matter what you say about the zoning issue, this is the first step in getting to that subdivision. And if it's going to be a public subdivision that you're going to turn over to the public for us to maintain, you know, that's a burden that I don't believe that we should be taking on at this time, especially when you have about 400 lots over there to develop now. So, you know, I can't vote for this, and I'm not going to vote for it for that purpose because of the burden that it'll put on the infrastructure.
Any other comments from the table? Audience? Ms. Sarver?
And I concur with Mr. Roussel's assessment.
I would like to just defend that a little bit. So this is the first step in the process. This doesn't make us encumber any funds right now. With this particular subdivision, if we do approve it after two more steps, comes impact fees that we get from that development, that we can actually do the infrastructure improvements. They have water lines there already. There is a CEA already in place to take sewage and move it to Orleans Parish. So we have the pump station, which is Planters Canal Pump Station, which we just added 2 new pumps to. So the infrastructure problems, I don't see that as an issue. And I've spoken to folks from the school board, from the sheriff's office, from the district attorney's office, the assessor's office about it. Like I said, this right here is just the first step, and it's a rezoning. It doesn't, we can always, this debate really needs to be had at the next step when they have a plan of a subdivision and they can present us with exactly what they're going to do as far as the subdivision goes. This is just a rezoning, and as permits and zoning can tell you, they can't do anything on this property in regards to a subdivision just by this. Am I correct?
Correct.
And does this meet the model that I think Mr. Juneau, Mr. Bartholomew was on, and they had, it was a, what was the name of that?
You're talking about the comprehensive zoning, yes.
Yeah, so I'm just saying.
Comprehensive plan.
Right,
Both
so I'm just saying that fits within that model, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's all.
The government with the infrastructure?
I don't think so. And that's a debate that we can have when we decide on whether or not to allow a new subdivision to be put in there, but that's not what we're deciding on today. And I'm ready to debate that. I don't think so. I don't believe so. I've seen evidence to say to the contrary of that. And plus, with the impact fees, if we do have infrastructure improvements that need to be done, we could do that.
Solid. Mr. Russo?
Yeah, this is like going to a 3-ring match and giving up the first ring without getting in the ring. It's, to me, I've looked at the subdivision. The benefit to this government with the prices that were given to us in the presentation, minus the homestead exemption, is a $50,000 tax per year to maintain the 240 originally planned houses. Now, you can split this baby any way you want, but if you open the door is opened. I would not like to lead or mislead the developers to think that I'm going to support it at the end of the day, just like those individuals that misled Walmart that went on to Woodland Highway and they negotiated for a whole year, made all types of concessions, and at the end of the day, they couldn't find the plans in the permit office until you looked on top of the file cabinet and brought it over there when we got sued. So, you know, to me, when you open the door, you can say it's not about this and not about this, but without this, you can't do that. And as far as talking to the school board and all of them, I don't know that you're going to be able to accommodate all of the children that are going to be in this subdivision. That's not what I'm hearing from the school board or the representatives there. And, you know, I don't want to belabor the point here, but the fact remains that this will be a public burden on the infrastructure. And we got to send the sewage to Algiers. Does that tell you something? Does that tell you that we can handle the subdivision?
It's not that we can't handle that. Otherwise, we'd send it through Belchase. It's shorter to go to Algiers. There's already a pipe connecting it. Like I said, this isn't the time to have that debate, Mr. Russo, and I do appreciate your opinion. We've had a lot of discussions about it, and I think the developer is pretty clear of your position. Like I said, though, all this is the first step of a process, and this is just a rezoning. The zoning board voted 9-1 to approve this rezoning. That's all it does is it rezones it to R1B. It gives us time for the developer to, look, it's the developer's money. If the developer wants to come up with a concept and take a chance to present the council with a plan of action, then it's on the developer to prove that. It doesn't cost us a dime. All this is to us is just a rezoning.
Thank you, Councilman Black. Finish? Or Mr. Gino? I know, I'm waiting. I'm trying to address it to you. You finished? You all finished? Audience? Yes, ma'am. State your name, please, and your address.
My name is Melissa Nance. My current address is 103 Vista Drive. I guess I'm a little shocked this morning to see this on the list. I didn't recognize it until it was stated aloud. In my first conversation with the school superintendent, he made it clear that if he was aware that 400 houses were being built, that he would have gone against this builder, and he told me he spoke to the builder and told him so, and then this board gave him permission to build 462 houses.
That's wrong. So this particular rezoning calls for a maximum of 240 homes, around about that number. If this goes to where the developer wants to do a subdivision, and it comes before this council, I have already told the developer that it's going to be in phases, and the first phase will only be 100 homes. So I'm not sure where the 420 homes are coming from.
The plats that I saw the last time I was here.
Okay, you may be confusing it with another
No.
development.
I don't
Okay.
believe, I don't mean to be
No, I understand, ma'am. I
confrontational. I'm
understand.
just upset.
I understand.
Let's let, finish the dialogue, then you can speak instead of going back and forth.
So let me just clarify. You may be confusing the Parks and Plaquemines, which has already been approved, and they're already underway with what they're doing. That's a totally different development. It's a gated neighborhood, and they have upwards of that number of homes, existing homes combined with the future homes. The neighborhood you're talking about is approximately 240 or so homes.
You're talking about, I'm not talking about the ones around my lot, which I believe is the one that you're identifying now, is that
Yes.
correct? Okay. I'm talking about the 460 homes that he got permission for a couple of weeks ago.
Okay? That's in total.
Right. In speaking to the superintendent of schools, he told me that he spoke to that developer and told that developer if he went for more than 200 houses, that he would come here and he would oppose it.
And he's not here.
And this was passed because you've already passed it without his knowledge.
No, ma'am. I've had a lot of dialogue with the superintendent and with the school board, especially the school board member from District 2 that this represents. But it does affect the entire school system, whether it be Belcher's Middle School, primary, or high school. And we had the developer come in and provide us data. And I've asked the developer to provide the same data to the school board at a presentation and to the superintendent. Now, I haven't heard anything else from the school board or the superintendent on that. That is something that needs to be discussed when we decide if we're going to approve a subdivision. This is just a rezoning.
Of a piece of property that was given to him as a gift by the parish.
No.
This piece of
This piece of property
land,
is under a contract with a landowner.
it's under contract based on your approval of the zoning.
Okay, but it's under contract. We never gave him a gift. We don't own that land.
You own the land that he has to drive through
We
and
own
make
50,
a road through.
we own 50 foot that we gave him a right of way. We never gave him the land. We still own the land. We gave him a right of way to put a road on it, to make improvements to it. I did. I'm just answering a question.
Go ahead, ma'am.
You're taking information from a gentleman who's going to profit greatly, and I don't have a problem with profit. I wish that everyone had a profitable life. I don't have a problem with profit. But you're taking his advice for his research, and he's the one that's going to make a profit. That's like asking him to govern himself.
No, believe me, I have done numerous hours, countless hours of my due diligence. And honestly, I don't know how I'm going to vote on a subdivision if the subdivision is even brought to me yet. I'm voting on a rezoning to zone it from A1 to R1B so we can take a bunch of woods in the middle of Belchase that are woods and maybe give a place for my residents who I represent or any other residents who live in these districts or have moved out of Belchase or anywhere else in Plaquemines Parish to afford to live. So what I want to do is go through the process. I don't know. After the next step is the subdivision approval. I haven't made a decision on that yet because I'm still waiting for not only the developer but the other entities in government to come back to me and give me their opinion.
You seem very interested in facilitating this.
Yeah, because I'm going to tell you what. Because I want the people who I've grown up with, the people who came behind me, the seniors who have moved out of Belchase, moved out of Plaquemines, because they can't afford to live.
These houses are not
Excuse me,
expensive.
we're going to limit to 2 minutes, because this is the
Okay.
discussion back and forth.
But
We'd like for you to make your statement, and Councilman, if you don't mind.
Okay.
he brings a clear point, though. These are not inexpensive homes.
They're $250 to $325. I'm not saying that's not inexpensive,
Okay.
but I tell you what.
I guess one thing that I have a concern about is Belchase turning into Gretna.
And believe me,
Okay.
it's a fine line, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to do all my due diligence. I am not voting on a subdivision right now. I'm voting on taking something that's
right,
agricultural.
but you're voting on a road that he intends to limit access to
He's not
only
gonna
the
use the
people
road
in
unless we
his
vote on this.
neighborhood. He plans, there's this road that he's putting in, he's going to put a blockade on it, and only the people in that neighborhood are going to be allowed to use it. I'm not going to be allowed to drive through it.
Okay, can I ask you a question? You actually will be able to drive through because it's to be a public neighborhood. Can I ask you a question?
Excuse me, we got 2 minutes left for
All
this
right.
discussion.
I'll just give a 30-second question.
All right.
Do you happen to have a piece of property you have horses on right in the middle of this that you're concerned that you can't ride your horses in agriculture area?
I'm concerned about not being welcome. I waited a very long time and spent a lot of money to purchase a rural piece of property inside of a rural section so that I would be welcome in my own home.
I'd say probably 95% of Belchase at one point in time was agriculture. That's the holding pattern. That's the holding pattern for zoning. So we are right.
I don't see it. I can't find a definition that says that. I know that you guys want to use it, but I can't find a definition that says it.
Okay.
Discussion is closed.
Yeah, I'm going to move on. I'm going to call the question on the vote.
You want one more comment, ma'am? You got another statement you want to make? You want to say a statement before we close? Okay, thank you. Any other comments from the audience?
Hey, Richie Blink, 31918 Highway 23, Buras, Louisiana. I think it's important that, as we plan for the future, we also need to look at the past. People used to be spread out throughout the parish, and now about 2/3 of the population lives in Belchase. We've lost a considerable amount of land in the parish, and the population trends kind of mimic that. As people move out of the lower end, they tend to move up the road. I'm a resident of this parish. I love this place, and I want to remain here. And I'm 30 years old. I'm not really sure where in the parish I'm going to settle, but behind flood protection seems like the place that I want to be. So I think going forward, we need to consider how we're going to grow in a smart way. And some places might have to have more people living in them. And I hope you as a council will just consider that as you make your decision. Thanks.
Anybody else? Last question.
Mr. Russo, I agree with you. Once you open this door, not going to be able to close it. You're not going to be able to close it. Please, don't do it. We can't afford the infrastructure.
Councilman Black has called for the question. Any objections from the table? Hearing none, the machine is open. It passes 5-4. Next, please, 7.
7K, motion to override veto of ordinance number 17-48, Councilmember Edgecombe.
Mr. Edgecombe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a motion to come up to override the veto, but I want to have a discussion on it right now. Mr. Charles?
You have to get it on the floor, on the table. So you offer?
Yes, sir, I will.
Do you have a second? Need a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Second by Ms. Williams. All right, the machine is open for the suspension. I'm sorry.
Discussion.
Discussion.
It's a discussion.
Can you offer for discussion?
Yes, sir.
If I may, Chairman Bartholomew, if I'd like to simply call a point of order to go back to I think there would be some benefit to following the council agenda order, because there's some information that may come out that may be of benefit and service to the council if we just follow the order, such as 1A executive session prior to.
Mr. Edgecombe, Councilman Edgecombe.
Actually, I'd like to go for discussion, sir.
All right, let's move forward.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Charles?
The reason I thought it wasn't on the agenda, that's why I said we had to vote on it first, but she said it was on the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Councilmember Edgecombe and other members of the council. Having this on the agenda today, one, and two, allowing this discussion. This is, of course, dealing with the Ordinance 17-48, and I think you're all familiar with it. I just want to start off by reading an excerpt from something, and I'll explain why. It says, one of the things that separates the United States from other parts of the world is continuity of government, an orderly transition of power and continuity of government. We operate from one day to the next. The faces change, the names change, but the law doesn't change, and the will of the people in the exercise of their discretion in electing public officials shouldn't be insulted by suggesting that anything that happened before should be ignored because we have a new order. One may think this is from a treatise or law book or some journal of some kind, but it's actually not. This is a transcript from the trial at the conclusion that Judge Barbera, being the person that he is and listening to everything so well and knowing the law and everything, read into the record on March 20th. I think it's important in the sense that I know in my office, let me just say, an analogy with this is we run a domestic violence program. It's extremely good, rated very, very high. I know in the past we've been visited by different groups. Some years ago, I know they had a group which was a delegation called Women of Africa. Another group was from Russia that came and wanted to find out how we run our program, what it's about, what goes on with it. And it was very, very interesting to find out with them when the discussion was going on, and we had the judge's office involved, all the different people, the sheriff's office, everyone. They had a great question like this, and it really showed us what country we live in and why we live here. Their question was, when you do all of that, and you get this protective order, and it's to be served by the sheriff's person on the person, the defendant, how do you know it's going to be carried out? How do you know that sheriff's deputy is not going to tear it up? The judge is not going to tear it up immediately when you walk out the room. How do you know you're going to have anything? Well, we said, well, this is America, and we have processes and procedures that we follow, and that's how we do it. And therefore, when we get a protective order to protect somebody, and he gets out there, we know it's good until we have another day in court or wherever it might be, where there'd be a hearing to determine what's correct or incorrect about it. That's the process that we go through. I think it's very, very important to understand that we have to have a process of laws and of not anything else, not any one-man rule, anything of the sort. It needs to be a process of laws, and when the council votes on something and approves something to go on, if a new council comes in, it should follow up with it once it's been done. Once it's been done, unless they find some error, something like this that would say that there was fraud involved, something wrong, something happened, and then you might have a court proceeding, and the court, of course, could overturn it, as, of course, did not happen in this situation. I think it's important to point out, and I don't know how you explain to the taxpayers, that over $250,000 has been spent on this project already by parish government. Most of it being the FEMA monies, federal grant monies for architect engineering work. The council itself has spent money on asbestos abatement of the building. We've spent money out of my office on some of the architectural designs, things that we did extra to make sure it come out right. So basically $250,000 has been spent on this building so far. How do we respond to taxpayers about that? What do we get for our money there? In addition to that, litigation that's been going on, I know well over $100,000 has been spent now with all the attorneys involved. And, of course, in the appeal process, that's more money to go on. And so far, everything, of course, has been granted and saying by the court and by everybody else that a building should be built. We have a law that's called public bid law, the public works law, and we have to follow that. If not, what we do is we're getting less and less contractors interested in doing business in Plaquemines Parish. I know you'll have a matter executive session later with the latest suit filed. Y'all going to discuss that and take care of that, I'm sure. That's the process that we have today because contractors can't trust the fact that we have laws that say how we're supposed to do business, and it's not cheap. It's not easy for a contractor to put together a bid and then go out and buy the insurance and the surety bond that's required before you can actually get the contract in effect. In this case, that was done. In the next case, y'all could talk about, I know it was done as well, like this. And so what message are we telling our contractors and to our people out there that we want to have to come do business in Plaquemines Parish? Why are we doing that to them, driving them away? And that's exactly what's taking place. In addition, I'd ask you to please consider what this council's done for other offices. Engineering permit office, I'm not sure if they're here today. They have some of them here. They were in most of them, well, they were in the building that I'm in now. And of course, it was declared to be basically uninhabitable and unusable, and they were moved to new quarters out there. Good. I'm so glad for them. They run great departments. They do good work. So, and also was done for finance and human resources. Also an administration building. Also a new council building is being built. All of these things were being done by the council to take care, and by the parish government that is, to take care of the operation of government of different agencies in Plaquemines Parish. I applaud the parish council for doing that and the parish government for doing these buildings. It was able to get federal money, grant monies, through the hazard mitigation program and through the CBDG program, a state program, but it's funded by the feds, though. They were able to get those dollars to do these properties that the parish probably couldn't even afford it, even in its best days in the past. It had been a difficulty in doing so. And I think it was a wise move. Just as the sheriff, actually the past sheriff, acquired the building that they have in Belchase now by getting some grant monies, as well as, of course, the tenant rental income thing. I applaud them in getting those kind of things to get better quarters. It's a good way of doing it. And we've basically gone through the same process for several years, at least since 2012, working with Ms. Hilda Lott, Ken Dugas, Karen Myers, all the folks, everybody in parish government like this to get to the point that we did and to go forward and get a bid and get everything we did. I think at this point in time to turn your backs, everybody, to say that we need to go a different course after that's been done, I really think that's not the proper way of doing business with anyone involved in it like this. The parish workers that have worked on everything, the people that put the bid together, the contractor, everybody. And this contractor has done, I think, 6 buildings out there, I believe, in addition to this one, or maybe 5 in addition to this one. So apparently it's not a problem with him. He's been accepted to do all of them, to do a lot of work out there. And so I just would ask the council to please reconsider all of these type of matters, this one included, because I really think it's good government is to proceed in that fashion. And just as Judge Bobera said in that trial at the conclusion, that continuity of government is very, very important. We have to be able to believe in our government. We have to be able to trust in our government, and actions of councils in the past, parish presidents of the past, and everybody has to be followed through, unless, as I said, there's some fraud or something shown otherwise. And none of that, of course, is present whatsoever. So I just thank you once again for the time to speak. I thank Councilman, of course, Edgecombe for putting this forward. I truly appreciate it. I know you all have a lot on your plate today, so I thank you very, very much. Any questions, anybody?
Councilman Edgecombe,
About good?
what is your pleasure?
Good, sir.
Finished?
Discussion. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I would like to go over the deferred items and withdrawal that has been offered. A1, 6A1 deferred, 6B deferred, 6D and E is withdrawn. D and E is withdrawn. Q is deferred, P is deferred, PQ is deferred, and F is deferred. With that, we'll go to executive. Okay, I'll do it one more time. 6A1 deferred, 6B deferred, 6D is withdrawn, 6E is withdrawn, P, 6P is deferred, 6Q is deferred, and 7F is deferred. I'm sorry, 7F is deferred. Yeah, you say deferred. Which one you gave me to defer? No. 7-9. Roussel said, G. Yeah. Ayes deferred. Yeah, G. No, we did G on the 10th. You want 6G withdrawn? I didn't even have it. Withdrawn, Mr. Black? 6G is withdrawn. 6G withdrawn. Okay? Now we'll move to the agenda and follow accordingly.
One A1, executive session. Hallie A. Hesney versus PPG et al., 25th JDC, case number 62-472, Division B, Attorney Shane Landry, Councilmember Roussel. Number 2, Lynn Porter, Ann Porter, and Eric Harvey versus Billy Dufresne, AT&T Fleet Licensing and Old Republic Insurance Company, 25th JDC, case number 60-975, Division B, Attorney Shane Landry, Councilmember Roussel. Number 3, Plaquemines Parish Government versus W. Keith Hinckley et al., docket number 63-277, Division A, 25th JDC. Plaquemines Parish Government versus Emmett Burris, Daniel Scott et al., docket number 63-276, Division A, 25th JDC. Plaquemines Parish Government versus Byron Williams et al., docket number 63-278, Division B, 25th JDC. Plaquemines Parish Government versus Daniel Scott, Logan Lott et al., docket number 63-275, Division B, 25th JDC, Attorney Robert Barnett and Peter Barbay, Councilmember Roussel.
So moved.
Number 4, Crescent Commercial Construction LLC versus the Plaquemines Parish Government et al., 25th JDC, case number 63-716, Division A, Councilmember Black. Number 5, Mike Mudge et al. Versus Plaquemines Parish Council et al., 25th JDC, case number 60-909, Division A, Attorney Danny Garrett, Councilmember Trufant Salvant. And number 6, Potential Mineral Royalty Litigation, Attorney Peter Barbay, Councilmember Burt.
I'd like to offer with the understanding that each council member will address his docket in the executive session. So I do offer. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Solomon, okay, and Irvin Juno. The machine is open. It passes 9-0. The time is 3:10. We'll move into executive session at 3:10. Call the meeting, council meeting back to order. Revert, there was no action taken in executive session. At this time, we'd like to inform you that 6C has been deferred, and at the request of Mr. Juno, Councilman Juno, 6C is deferred. Yeah.
The deckhands?
And now, Councilman Juno, which you defer to?
I'd like to put in
7N.
Presentation by Kia Bickman on the Louisiana Strategic Adaptations for the Future Environments.
Councilman Juno.
Did the Peen defer his? Did the Peen defer his?
Good afternoon. I am Kia Bickham. I'm the Community Outreach Manager for CB&I, and I'm here representing the Louisiana Office of Community Development Disaster Recovery Unit, and I'm here to tell you about the Louisiana's Strategic Adaptations for Future Environment planning process. It's a planning process that kicked off in March. We hosted a series of 6 parish-wide meetings, and I'm pleased to announce that Plaquemines Parish had the largest attendance at the Port Sulphur YMCA. And this is a planning process that engages residents to tell us how best this community can adapt to the changing environment. So we know that this parish will experience land loss, increased flood risk, and in this time the state wants to hear from the residents on what things that they can invest in that will make a difference and help these communities become more adaptable. We're kicking off a series of public meetings beginning on Tuesday, June 6th at the Belle Chase Auditorium from 6 to 7:45 p.m. We'll be back here at the Percy Griffin Community Center on June 7th, and then we will close out on Thursday, June 8th at the Burris Community Center in YMCA. I do have some packets of information that I will pass and I can leave to you, with you. You will also be receiving a personal email from me as a follow-up conversation, so I'm available to answer any questions that you may have about this program and how you can become involved. And Mr. Roussel and Mr. Juneau both attended the first meeting, and Mr. Bartholomew, we had a chance to sit down and talk about what this could mean for the parish, looking at the non-structural flood protection options, how this community can adapt, and what we can do. The state has approximately $35 to $40 million to invest between the 6 coastal parishes, which includes Terrebonne, St. John the Baptist, St. Tammany, Jefferson, Plaquemines, and Lafourche. And so we would love to have you there, your constituents there. This plan will only be as strong as the citizen input that we can get. So thank you for the opportunity to address the council, and I will pass out this information.
Any questions from the table?
Well, I'd like to thank you for coming, and I enjoyed the one down in Port Sulphur. That was a good one.
Well, thank you.
I appreciate it, and we'll try to get advertisement out for you.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm going to just pass this
Audience,
out.
you have any questions and comments from the audience? Hearing none, we'll revert back to the order of the agenda.
Status report by the parish president.
Let's go to proclamations.
No,
We
no
don't have any?
proclamations.
Mr. President, you have any comments?
Yes, good afternoon. President's report from May 25th, 2017. As was alluded to earlier, we had our regularly scheduled breakfast meetings with Captain Sakata. We discussed the status of the bridge off Barrier Road, and we'll follow up there. We're attempting to secure funding from the base to do some repairs to that bridge. We're going to have had town hall meetings on May 15th in Belchas, May 16th in Port Sulphur, May 17th in Davant, May 18th in Burris. And I want to thank all members of the community who came out and heard the presentations and had good questions. It's always through active civic participation that makes for better government. And so thank you all for attending. On May 16th, I attended, had a meeting with Colonel Clancy of the United States Corps of Engineers and signed an agreement with the Corps that will dredge Baptiste Colette and will also start or provide some dredge material. It's a beneficial use of dredge material BudMat program that will provide some coastal restoration project, specifically Spanish Pass Ridge. On May 17th, met with our financial agent at Regions. We are taking a proactive approach in the Cormier administration ahead of time to make sure that we're securing the best yields on any potential settlement monies that may be coming our way. We had the Blue Mass at which our fire district, the Plaquemines Parish Fire District, our Chief Roy Robichaud was in attendance. I was there along with the Sheriff Tullidge and PPSO, and it was a wonderful memorial event. Had a good seafood fest over this past weekend. We are currently involved in watching both legislatures that oversee us. One is we have a federal legislative or congressional watch, And the second is we have a state legislative watch. At the federal level, I will be requesting that our council obtain a lobbyist in D.C. to make sure that our interest on the National Flood Insurance Program, which is being debated now in Congress, that our interests are asserted and looked out for, and also on a little bit of a somewhat disconcerting news. The administration just recently at the federal level made statements to the effect, or made a proposal to the effect that would cut some of our outer continental shelf mineral royalties. Those royalties are set to start coming our way pursuant to Go Mesa, and we definitely want to see to it that we maintain that or obtain that stream of revenue. The state of Louisiana has been producing mineral royalties, has been producing the energy that ran this nation for over half century, and it's high time that we get our fair share of those mineral royalties, because we certainly have experienced the adverse effects of the production to our wetlands. At the state legislative watch, we're tracking one bill in particular, and we working as well as possible with our legislators, and we will continue to do so for the benefit of Plaquemines Parish. As regards we're constantly looking to convert assets or make the best use of our assets here in Plaquemines Parish. And one of those assets that the parish has, we still have over $6 million of wetland mitigation credits. These credits were purchased. There was over 7 million credits purchased prior to my father's administration. Those credits are not producing any benefit for us right now. They're not earning interest or anything. So I've been seeking to convert those credits into something other. Either one, the first plan is we've been speaking with the Corps, Colonel Clancy. I brought it up with him again when I met for the signing of the BudMat project, requesting that he permit us to use those wetland mitigation credits for the NOV NFL, the New Orleans to Venice non-federal levy system. We are in discussions. Those credits were authorized by the regulatory division of the Corps, but in the most recent rating or ranking program, the civil department of the Corps did not mention those credits as being a potential source of wetland mitigation credit. So to that extent, my administration is working diligently to change the Corps' or allow the Corps the opportunity to see it from a different perspective, a different angle, as this will further save the parish money if we can make use of those credits instead of having to purchase more wetland mitigation credits. As a backup plan, I met with Mr. Harris this week. He's one of the gentlemen who's with this methanol plant that has been proposed for Plaquemines Parish. They are in the process of seeking permits. The air quality permit process is going forward. And I brought up the fact that he may have a need for some wetland mitigation credits, and we're entering or entertaining the idea that the proposed methanol plant would purchase the credits from us, which would allow us, in the event that the Corps does not want to use them, would allow us to convert those credits into cash, which would make us be a more liquid asset. On May 18th, had a meeting regarding the Myrtle Grove levee construction. Councilwoman Trufant was present, and we will be coming to the council with Once again, this project is going to require the acquisition of lands and right-of-ways, and as is so often the case, I'm in favor of flood protection, but it's our duty, according to the contract that was signed by the administration prior to my father, that parish would pick up the tab for these acquisitions and right-of-ways. And so that we will be coming with an ordinance for this council to entertain that, and so as to, and not do it in a piecemeal fashion, as Councilmember Russo pointed out before. There has been a tendency to do this in a piecemeal fashion, where we come and the consultants who are doing this come, ask for a sum of money, and then they come back later and request more money. And we have some estimates from the consultants, and we want to do this in a holistic fashion, to where we'll know up front what the costs are, or to where this council and the public will know up front what the costs are of completing this some of these levy projects. On May 24th, Councilmember Juneau called a meeting, and with Councilmember Russo, members of my administration and staff, regarding Type 2 and Type 3 disposals. Type 2, the municipal waste, and Type 3 being the construction and demolition waste. We are tracking, there could be some issues with the contract that is in place insofar as in some environmental issues, and we're tracking that closely to make sure that we can adjust before if DEQ takes some action. And last but not least, I want to congratulate all the graduates from Plaquemines Parish. We had, it was truly impressive to see some of the accomplishments that our young people have achieved. I think it's safe to say that the youth, the young men and women of Plaquemines Parish, obtained over $2.5 million in scholarships. And that is an impressive feat, that something to be proud of, and we wish them, we congratulate them on their academic success and wish them the best in the future. And we also want them to continue their career and then come back and help make Plaquemines a better place. And with that, Chairman, I yield back to you. One last thing, Chairman. I passed out some letters and correspondence to the council, and at this time I'd like to enter it into the record of the council. These are letters dated, correspondence dated October 6th, 2014, from DHH, State of Louisiana Department of Health and Hospitals. This was correspondence written to Mr. Robert Morgan of Severn Trent from DHH. There's a letter dated July 22nd, 2014. This is from the administration before my father, written to the Department of Health and Hospitals, and this letter was signed by the former Director of Public Service, Mr. Rennie Beerus, and then another letter, I believe, dated October 6th from DHH. We have Mr. Morgan here from Severn Trent, and one of the things that wanted to bring to this august body's attention is that while none of us like higher water rates, it appears that in the year 2014, the parish according to this correspondence, obligated itself to future liabilities and commitments that are going to cost us money. At this time, given the passage of Ordinance number 17-62, the course of action that this administration will take is that we've already informed our consultant that to modify our PER to USDA, and hopefully, best case scenario, it will not adversely affect our application. But I just wanted to bring this to the council's attention and to the public's attention that some of these obligations, wanted to put them into the record as to where these were not incurred by this council and they were not incurred by this administration, but done back in 2014 and something that we should be aware of. And with that, Mr. Chair, Mr. Morgan's here and Mr. Nadesan with the consulting group if anyone has any questions. But with that, I yield back, Chairman, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Are there any questions from the table? Mr. Roussel?
Yes, just as follow-up, Mr. Cormier, most of us are very well aware of what we inherited because when we came into office, there was $700,000 worth of revenue in the budget that did not exist because of an increase of water rates that was put into the budget as a revenue stream with no ordinance to back it up, which put us all in a precarious position of where we had to raise the water rates just to make the budget balance. So, the obligations that were signed by these letters was only the tip of the iceberg compared to what else is going on. Now, to follow along with our changing of the application, it's my intention and hope that this government will look at future expenses for the water projects, accept the grants, and not accept the loans, and use the cash from the BP settlement to supplement the water system as a one-time expenditure of those funds to be able to put our system in shape. Because as you've heard hundreds of times, we have a debt. As you've explained to many people, we have a debt in excess of $170 million. For us to go out and borrow any money at this time would be, I think, irresponsible of this government. So I'm hoping that the settlement of the BP money will take the shortfall of whatever grant we don't receive from what we're applying for. So regardless of what our application says as far as the rates go, the grants are not contingent upon rates. The contingency, in my opinion, and I may be wrong, and the consultants here to clear this up, is that the grants are conditioned upon the rural area of the parish and what qualifies versus the loan situation, which would be qualifying according to the rates. And I believe that the ordinance that you cited that we passed through this body unanimously was important to give our rate payers the relief they deserve because, as we've heard in the application process, 40% of our water is disappearing. We need to find that out. And, I have a question. I know that we had an incident recently in the Port Sulphur area where a meter reader was not reading the meters correctly, and we wrote off a lot of water. And I'd like the administration to tell us how much water did we write off. I know the individual, it was brought up recently, and it was asked what the disciplinary issue was with the employee, and it was stated that there was none. Well, since then, we've learned that there was. And so how much water did we actually write off, and is that a contributory towards the 40%? Was it 5%, 6%? And that gets that number down maybe significantly, or maybe it was 1%. I don't know, but I would hope that we could get that information from somebody to tell us how much water was written off.
Thank you for those comments, Councilman Roussel. The purpose of, I can get those, I don't have the exact numbers on hand, but I can get those to you. The purpose, though, of these letters being introduced to the council record is that these letters obligated PPG to do three things to the best of my appreciation. One was decommission the Port Sulphur water treatment plant to decommission the Boothville Venice water treatment plant, and then to increase the Belchas water treatment plant to produce 9 million gallons a day. So just wanted to put that into the record so that everyone would know that these obligations were incurred back in, or arguably they were assumed back in 2014, and that way so everyone, including the public and everyone, would know exactly what was, what may come down the road. And you see in the letter of, I think, October 6th from DHH that they granted a request for extension because back in 2014, DHH was looking at calling for a boiled water notice. And so this can was kicked down the road, and it's landed in our lap. And so that is the state of affairs that just wanted to keep everyone apprised of.
And I agree with that, and I just wanted to add the $700,000 figure on top of your pile over there. It's an obligation that was put on this government without any source of revenue. But I will ask that you provide that amount of water that was written off to the next meeting, or before then if possible. Next, the Secretary to put that discussion of water rate and lack of collection on the next agenda. Unless we get that information before then, we'll take it off.
Councilman Black?
Yeah. I don't want to belabor this any more than I have been, but I've asked for a reorganization plan for quite a long time, as I spoke about before, and I may have found one of the reasons why we haven't gotten that plan, and maybe I'm just hoping you can clarify this. This has been brought to my attention since I received the paper on Monday. So Tuesday, Wednesday, I've received a bunch of calls in reference to a comment that was quoted at the town hall meeting by your director of operations. He quoted that men in his department are hiding their trade skills to avoid being assigned to jobs in different departments. I would like some clarification on that, because to me, we've asked, as council has asked, and as Ms. Sullivan said earlier today, about a reorganization of manpower so we can actually get jobs done. And we have a director quoting that men in his department are hiding their trade skills to avoid being assigned to jobs in different departments. So I think if that can't be clarified and that statement is true and that was said, that may be a reason why we haven't gotten a reorganization plan. I mean, I just want you to, and I don't take everything the media writes as gospel, but I do want to give you the opportunity to defend that.
Well, first of all, Councilman Black raised a point of order, because that's completely not been mentioned or was on the agenda, but I will address it briefly. One, I was at every town hall council meeting, and I don't remember that statement ever being made. Two, and again, I'll be brief because this wasn't brought up in my president's report, and it's not on the agenda. But two, when the manpower shortage of almost 50%, as I've stated many times, it's not a question of you can't reorganize what you don't have. And so, and we've had this discussion before, but I'll limit my comments to that just because it wasn't on the agenda, and leave it at that, and we can discuss more later in detail.
Mr. Lapine?
I guess my question to you, we can't ask you a question during a presidential address, because I also have a question, too, of one of your comments. Would you like
I think he's clearing that if it hasn't been part of the address, then we can't ask that particular question.
Okay, wait,
that's all I'm saying.
When,
ruling on that, well, let's get a ruling on that.
All right, give me the exact question.
The question is that whatever was discussed by the president for his address to the council and audience as issues that being brought forth that haven't been addressed. And he says since it wasn't addressed in his presentation, you don't want to deal with it now, but he will deal with it at another time.
Well, I mean, as I appreciate, the agenda item is just the president's address. Now, I mean, if they're recognized, the council could ask the question. I don't know if the parish president's under any obligation to answer. It's not a really a question-answer session. I mean, certainly he could acquiesce to answer questions, but I don't know.
It's up to his discretion, more or less.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. All right, questions up to his discretion whether he wants to answer. Okay, go ahead.
In the Gazette in May 16, 2017, it's official, we got the money from BP, and the quote, we are out of the run out of cash scenario now, said Cormier following the press conference. My goal is my first 100 days in office has to be finding cash and finding it quickly. This is what I want to ask. We even had to look at Chapter 9 bankruptcy scenarios because the numbers just weren't lining up. So when I read this is the first time I've ever heard of Chapter 9 being mentioned. I know we're under some financial restraints. I know we are strapped with cash. I know the budget. I also reached out to Tommy Surpass and said, where did we ever discuss Chapter 9 bankruptcy? So I'll challenge my council members. Is anyone else pertinent to this information or conversation about bankruptcy?
If I may, Councilman Lapine, and just for the clarification, I will address it, but for example, in other parishes like Lafourche, I think parish president there has, if the question is not submitted 48 hours in advance to the council meeting, he doesn't address it. But I'm not going to.
You can skid around it. That's fine.
I'm not. No, I will answer
fine.
it. I'm just saying for purposes of procedural decorum. But when at the first, I think it was the first council meeting that I think I had the Director of Finance, Mr. Surpass, came and gave a presentation that we were set to run out of cash in August, and that we would have to dip in, start using the bond money. Something that's set for other purposes in order to make it through the year. The Chapter 9 is a legal procedure, and we were looking at it because it's specifically for municipalities. So that was as chief executive of parish government, we had to consider all scenarios. But you're correct. Okay. I did not speak. I think maybe passing conversation, I might have briefly mentioned it. But for the most part, that was an internal function.
From this point forward, any conversation about bankruptcy, I implore you to invite us to that conversation. Okay? Thank you.
Councilman Black, you have an opinion, comment?
No, I would just suggest to we have the council attorney take a look at it and see if we can come up with a defined policy on whether or not we can ask the parish president questions. Or what's the policy and procedure in place?
He just gave an opinion. So.
Right. I know his opinion. I'm saying we need to come up with a clear set of council rules because I think everybody has questions at times for the president.
I think we can ask anything you want to put it on the agenda. You can ask anything you want to if you put it on the agenda for discussion. But if it's just a bird of the moment, I personally don't believe we can make it happen because then it's out of order, out of sequence, because you have to give people time to prepare the answer to the question, of knowing what is the question, to be at the table. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. I mean, sometimes I don't want to give people a lot of time to prepare for the answer. I just want the truth, which I'm not sure you have to prepare a lot of time for the truth. But
all right,
that's my opinion.
Sure. Anybody else?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move to item K.
We got to. Yeah, go ahead. You want a question? Yeah, sure. Anybody who have a question? We don't turn them
Actually,
down.
Mr. Chairman, there's the state law provides for a public comment period. I think you potentially get far afield by just inviting the public up to ask general questions, not on a specific agenda item, to either the president or the members of the council, because that could lead you into discussions which are outside of your agenda. A question on a matter of parish government to the parish president, I think is close enough to the parish president's report to fall within that agenda item. But I would caution that just having sort of an open mic period could lead to discussions that are not on the agenda and an allegation that y'all are acting in violation of the open meetings law.
Hi, my name is Terry Ann Landry. I've been employed with Plaquemine Parish Government since September 24, 1998, which is 18 years, 8 months, and 1 day today. I am here today because I have some questions that need to be addressed. My question is, if the parish has a hiring freeze, how can someone outside of the parish employment receive a job with a letter of recommendation from the parish president? But to receive a job that have not been posted or advertised when it was stated that any job would be hired within. And my second question is inquiring about Rule 6, page 1, section 3.1. Applicants who are residents of Plaquemine shall be accorded preference over non-residents. The person that is supposed to receive this position, is she a parish resident? Inquiring about Rule 6, page 2, section 3.4.
Excuse me, it's in reference to what, baby?
The civil service
Okay.
rules.
Yeah, just let us know
I'm sorry.
what you quoted.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. And if the director has given notice about a position that is to be advertised, how can someone be given preference for this position without advertisement? Question number 4. Inquiring about Rule 7, page 1, section 1.1. Filling vacancies has certain preferences from A through D in the order of how these positions are for certifying people for employment. When are these preferences utilized? Question number 5. Inquiring about Rule 7, page 5, section 4.2. The person that President Cormier in civil service is trying to rehire, is she going back to the same department she was laid off? I am asking these questions because every person that has sat in this seat and stated that everything will be done by the book, has it? No. Will it? No. I will tell you why it hasn't. People on the board, civil service, and administration has and have been skirting the laws that are supposed to be binding, which was put in place to hire people. Is it fair? No. But it is constantly being done. It has to stop somewhere. It has to stop now. Why is it that someone can constantly guarantee someone that they will get them a job or another job? This is discriminatory and discrimination. In June 2016, I received a layoff termination letter. On my last day of employment, I was offered a demotion position as a helper for Solid Waste North, but would stay as an acting secretary for the maintenance department. I took the demotion and the pay reduction. Yes, I did. Yes, I am grateful that I was able to maintain a job. When I heard that the secretary position for prom was coming on the board, I was excited about being able to apply for a position that I was qualified for and previously held. I contacted civil service many times to see when this position would be advertised. At first, Katie Barrios said she knew nothing about this, and if it was to be advertised, it would have to come from Ellen Barrios. I waited a couple of days, and I called back. I spoke with Ellen, and she constantly stated that she did not receive anything about this position. But if I wanted to send in my application, I could. And when the position would come on the board, she would send in my application. And I sent in my application in an inner office envelope to Ellen Barrios. My mouth is really dry, I'm sorry. In civil service. On May 24th, 2017, around 8:45, I was speaking with Nicole Carnes about an issue about some paperwork and inquired about the secretary position in prom. She then informed me about the position being given to Christy. She stated that Christy had a letter of recommendation. I ended my call with Nicole, and then I called Ellen in civil service. Upon speaking with Ellen about the secretary job, she got very quiet. When I informed that I was told that Christy was receiving this position with a letter of recommendation, I asked, how could this happen? It still had not been advertised. She stated that she was processing the paperwork as we speak. I asked her who gave Christie the letter of recommendation, and Ellen replied, Amos. I said I thought there was a hiring freeze and that the process to receive employment had to come from within the departments. I informed Ellen I am not standing for this. I called to speak with Mr. Cormier and was informed by Amelie that he wasn't in the office because of meetings. I asked Amelie to have Mr. Cormier contact me on this matter as soon as possible. Amelie stated that she would send him a message to contact me. I did not hear from Mr. Cormier, so I called Amelie back on my lunch break. She informed me that Mr. Cormier would be in around noon. I asked for an appointment for that day when he would come into the office. I was told that she would contact him, but I could not see him today because there was a graduation yesterday evening. My final question, well, before I ask my question, I did receive an email from Amelie yesterday giving me an appointment to see him June 6th at 10 a.m. in the morning. My question to Amelie was, will that help the hiring of Christie? And she told me she could not answer that question. She was going to contact Mr. Cormier and call me back. I never heard anything. But my final question is directly to you, Mr. Cormier. When you were out here campaigning about continuing what your dad has started by changing the way things are or were done in the parish, why have you just done what every other president, administrator, or councilperson has or have done previously by handing someone a position without going through the proper channels? And I stand here and I ask this question because it is constantly done over and over. If there's a hiring freeze and you are supposed to hire within, why is it changed because someone comes to this council meeting, sit in here, get up in here and plead for a job, and everybody want to give her one?
Now, Ms. Landry, if I may, first of all, this is the type of reason why we were just talking about having some decorum in these meetings. Part of the issue of being a leader is you're not going to make everybody happy. Now, I find it interesting that I called you this morning, did I not?
I did come.
And I asked.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I called you this morning, and I asked for you to come, and you said you couldn't come because you were worried because you worked for the parish. You were worried that your boss might not like it. And I told you that I'm the parish president. You tell your boss if he has a problem to come over here. Did you get permission from the boss to take off work today, or? But I'll put that question aside. The bottom line is I attempted to have a meeting with you this morning, and you left. So you might not have that much respect for me as parish president, and that's your right. That's your right and privilege. But when I arranged my schedule to meet with you and you left, and then I tried calling you back to see if I could catch you, and you didn't answer. So it's obvious that you wanted to come here and just vent your grievances, and that's fine. As a citizen, you have that right. The one thing that we were speaking about before, though, was that if we're going to have the reason why we have this council agenda is so that everyone has a chance to prepare, so everyone has notice, and they don't get ambushed. And clearly today, when you left my office, you wanted to come and try to ambush me today before the cameras. And you didn't give me a chance to even speak with you before about these grievances. So with that,
I want to say something, and it's not being disrespectful because I don't believe that it's disrespectful. At first you said I couldn't come because I couldn't get off from my superintendent, and that was not true. When I hung up with you, I told you, okay, and you asked me where I was, and I told you in the maintenance department. And you asked me who my boss was, and I told you James. And I did come out there. I stood out there 20 minutes waiting to speak to you. I spoke to Crystal. I spoke to Paige. It's not about ambushing you. It's putting it out here for the dirty deeds that is going on behind closed doors. Maybe you might have not known why giving Christie a letter of recommendation, but she came here every month. And she came in here and she pleaded for a position. when there's a hiring freeze. My thing is, I'm not trying to embarrass anyone. I'm speaking for myself. But you can't say I didn't come. You can't say that I couldn't get off from my superintendent because I was there. I even received a call. My mom went to the hospital. And yes, I did go back to work. And when you contacted me, I was on the phone. I went back to work and I punched out and I came here. But this doesn't lie within just you. This lies within, because did you know that giving someone a letter of recommendation would give them a job? Did you know that prior to you giving a letter of recommendation?
Ms. Landry, I thank you for admitting, after you omitted the fact that I tried to have a meeting with you this morning, I thank you for admitting that. I disagree with your characterization of the facts. Very strongly disagree because, but I will say this. If you work for parish government and the parish president asks you to do something, you have to do it.
I went there, sir. I stood there 20 to 25 minutes waiting. And Emily was told twice I was there waiting for you. I spoke to Crystal. I spoke to Paige. But what I'm saying is, don't say I didn't come, because that's what you said in the beginning.
No.
Yes, sir, you did. And I'm not going to argue with you, but I'm just saying these are the questions that I wanted answers for, because I kept on calling to find out when the job will be placed on the board.
I understand. We appreciate it.
And when the job did not come on the board, through Emily yesterday, she said when she called back to civil service, it was like she was told that the job was posted. So all I'm saying is, if you're going to do something and it has to be done right, do it completely. The same way everybody come in here and address things, I just ask for honesty. And like I said, I did go out there this morning. I really did. And I waited.
Okay. Mr. Columbia, you have any comments? Okay. Anything else? Anybody? Table? Mr. Lapine?
Ma'am, how many attempts did you make to try to get a facilitator meeting with the president?
I called yesterday.
You just called yesterday?
I called yesterday. I called yesterday morning once I found out that the job was supposed to be given to Christy. And the thing about it is Ellen's attitude when she's doing something, and like she told me, and it was like a slap in my face, when she said, oh, I'm processing the paperwork as we speak right now. So I hung up with her and I called. Then on my lunch break, I go to lunch at 11. I called again. And then Amelie sent me an email at 2. I printed it out. It was like 2 something. And I replied to her and asked her, even though you're giving me this appointment on June 6th at 10 a.m., will this help giving Christy the job? And she told me she couldn't answer that question, but she would contact me back, and she didn't.
Excuse me, you have what, 1 minute left?
Okay. Okay.
Let me just comment on this issue overall. We've got to get a handle on what's going on here with this layoff, all these people laid off in policy. Just as this lady stated the situation, I know people that were doing paperwork before this council ever approved the job and lining up for positions to be reinstated without ever advertising or being hired within the force. We've got to figure out what's the right way to do this, and I'm not sure what it is, but if civil service is going to give mixed messages, I think they're going to put you in a box, Mr. President, with not being able to follow the consistency that we need, because we definitely need some consistency here on how are we going to handle positions. Are we going to limit it to in-house employees first? Are we going to go outside and ask people who have been laid off to be second? I mean, we got to have some type of direction here, because from what I see, this lady highlights another problem we have with the whole scenario of how we're going to handle the layoffs and how we're going to handle reinstatements without advertisements, and people who got the most stroke can get a job, as Ms. Salvon says, cherry picking and getting a position. I mean, it's not being fairly applied from the civil service aspect, I see, in my opinion anyway. And I'll leave it at that.
Ms. Williams?
Yes, I concur with Mr. Roussel. This isn't the first time that issues with civil service has been brought up. And I would recommend, Mr. President, that we get a hold on this quick, fast, and in a hurry. Because Ms. Landry's not the first one that has come and said that they have been looked over, so to speak, for a position. Positions haven't been posted, and people have gotten jobs. People have got letters of recommendation, and if that's the process, then it needs to be fair across the board. Like Mr. Roussel said, the rules that are in place need to be followed, and people need to be held accountable.
Last question.
I was trying to get some clarity, Mr. Bartholomew, of a procedure, because, and not that I agree with Mr. Black or maybe Mr. P in motive, but I think I've always thought that when the parish president get up and make a president thing that people question, he brought up the public hearing meeting and this thing, and so you're saying from now on, if the parish president making his announcement, the question can be asked to him. If it's something that I'm just trying to get some clarity on it, because I know heretofore that has been the process, because oftentimes you can't reach the parish president, not just him, but dealing with the same way. The only way that people had a chance to really ask their question was during the president comments on certain issues. So I'm just trying to say is, so there's going to be a new procedure in place, because I'm just trying to understand it, because usually that's was the time that you could ask him something based on what he said, and I think, now that I agree, Mr. Payne was asked a question on a public hearing. He brought the parish meeting, town hall meetings up. That's all I'm just.
I think he brought it up after Mr. Black's comment, not doing his address.
So I'm saying
If it's doing his address, I think the question can be addressed, but it's still up to him to answer.
Okay. I'm just trying to get some clarity on it.
It's nothing so we can make it mandatory.
And Mr. Edwards, for clarity of the record, Mr. Dungasser didn't come to council meetings.
Well, I'm just saying the time that he did come to council meeting, so I'm just trying to get some clarity on it, because I know usually that'd be the part where when the president make a statement, people could ask him questions. I was just trying to get some clarity.
I have a comment. I have a comment. Have a comment. Ma'am, Ms. Lamb, I just want to commend you on the professionalism that you showed at that podium and how you conducted yourself, ma'am. Thank you.
Warren Lawrence, and I will address only to what the president said in his report. One is nobody likes to be ambushed. And in your report, you had talked about there was a meeting about Myrtle Grove. I happen to live in Myrtle Grove. And if you're having a meeting about a realignment of a levy, because when they originally had the public hearings on the alignment, to get the right-of-ways and everything, the parish government at that time and the Corps of Engineers accepted donations of land for alignment. Now, you're going out where they're saying we're not going to use the alignment that was approved in the public hearings. We're going to do a realignment and go out and purchase land. And to be blindsided of not knowing in our subdivision on where our drainage is going to go, we've never had a final report on this. And here they, I guess, doing some kind of negotiation. We've sent letters to Ms. Audrey. She's not here, but, I'll get back with Ms. Audrey on it, asking for clarification from the Corps of Engineers on why they need this different alignment, how much it's going to cost. We know who the land owners are that you're buying the land for this realignment. And it's past representatives of this parish. There's alternatives. We've then seen 3. We've never seen the final yet. And that to be blindsided and not to go in to say you're going to have to buy land, at least we think you ought to have the courtesy to come to our subdivision and tell us, what are you going to do with us? I mean, we've had constant thing, and I have asked that we get together on this, and before it goes any further, we'd like to at least have our comments. I have my life savings tied up there, and I think as a courtesy, we should be involved. I mean, we will arrange it to have meetings at your convenience or Ms. Audrey's. I'll get with Ms. Audrey also. That's all I have on that comment. The other comment was about the water. You know, Mr. Roussel had made a comment about using the BP money to help out to do this water in lieu of if we can't get the loan from whoever you were trying to get a loan from. My only comment that if we're going to use BP money to bail out this enterprise fund, we do it in a fashion of a loan, not in a fashion of a grant. You have a rate study. You suspended it, which I agreed with 100%. We did go into doing this re-upgrade and everything on the water to be able to produce 9 million gallons a day when you only collect on 2 million gallons a day is ludicrous. You got to find out where it's going. You don't keep increasing your capacity and not find your losses. I said this when the rates went up, and I'll say it again. We have to do a comprehensive study on where's the water going. There's been pressure problems recently. We know we have water losses, and you can't find it, but we need help to find it. And again, I think it's just to come in and donate money to a system that can't operate properly in a form of a grant is ridiculous. I don't care if it's a 1% loan or no % loan. Do it in a loan fashion that they have to repay this parish. If I had any questions, so Cranley.
No, Mr. Warren, I don't have a problem with loaning ourselves the money.
Okay. I thought you said a grant.
I just don't want to go
That's why.
outside and incur more debt for the overall government.
Right. And I just feel like the Water Department as an enterprise fund is obligated to pay for it. And if you're loaning it, that's fine. I do object to just bailing them out by grant.
We'll go to business and advertisement, please.
Good afternoon. I'm Brenda Stanford, Parish Purchasing Agent. I have one resolution authorizing the acceptance of bids for furnishing all grease, lubes, etc. for the period of 1 year for parish-wide use. After due advertisements, bids were received on May 9, 2017 from the following: Go-Bear Company, Gulf Coast Oil and Supply, O'Reilly Auto Parts, Retief Oil and Fuel, Salath Oil Company, and Sirac Oil. Is my recommendation with input from the department heads, recommends the acceptance of the low bid of Go-Bear, the low bid of Gulf Coast, the low bid of Retief, the low bid of Salath, and the low bid for Sirac Oil as detailed within.
I offer. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Roussel. Are there any questions from the table? Audience, the machine is open. It passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Go to L, please, then K. L, then K. 6L, then 6K. Yeah.
6L, an ordinance authorizing an emergency exception to the hiring freeze currently enacted on all vacant positions of Plaquemines Parish government and otherwise provide with respect thereto. This one is for the finance, scanning clerk, and assistant purchasing agent.
Offer. Questions from the table? Audience, machine is open. Passes 7-0. K, please.
6K, an ordinance authorizing and directing the parish president through the finance department to open a special account at Regents Bank entitled BP Settlement Fund, authorizing and directing the parish president through the finance department to establish one or more accounts for investment purposes in the Louisiana Asset Management Pool, called LAMP, to designate signatories for said accounts, to designate that no funds are to be transferred or expended from the said accounts without an affirmative vote of at least two-thirds of council's entire membership, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Russell?
I'll offer it with the changes that I distributed.
You had the changes?
No,
Yeah, I
sir.
distributed.
Oh, okay. A second? A second. Any questions from the table? Yeah, I do. All right, let's hear it.
All right, I want legal's opinion on Section 3. Mr. Russo had it in there, and the change it hereby establishes the policy that a two-thirds vote of the Plaquemines Parish Council, in parentheses, with at least 6 members voting affirmatively. He originally had shall be required in order to remove money from the BP settlement fund. I think the intent of this ordinance is that two-thirds of this council it would take to move money from that. I think that should remain a shall. I want a legal opinion of why it's changed to should, because it being a change to should doesn't hold any, I mean, this is, I'm not going to vote for it with should, because it doesn't make any sense. I just want an opinion on that. I'm not saying that I'm not going to vote for it. Let me just get a legal opinion on it.
Well, again, Councilman Roussel is the one who's offering the change. I can tell you that there was discussion of the prior language, and a question arose as to whether or not that created a conflict with any provision in the charter. With regard to the provisions of the charter that indicate that ordinances require the approval of a majority of the council membership, and given that an appropriation is ordinarily performed in the form of an ordinance. But the notion was if the intent, and again, it was introduced one way, there was a proposed change, and then a proposed change to the proposed change, which indicates that it was to be more of a policy statement, thus alleviating the potential question with regard to the charter.
Well, my interpretation of the charter, I think Mr. Garrow is the same interpretation of the charter that you had, which would provide us the opportunity to leave the word in shall, because when we take the word shall out and put it in should, it becomes a policy that does not have to be enforced or actually done by the administration, because it's only should.
Ultimately, and I think the way it's set up, I think the funds would still have to be appropriated, which is still an action that y'all would have to take before the monies could be executed by the administration.
But the question is if it's not a two-thirds vote and they get 5 votes to move the money, well, then it's not a violation of the ordinance, because it only should be required.
Well,
it shall be required.
And even if it were left as shall, the council, if, for example, the council was unable to get 6 votes to appropriate the money based upon that provision in the ordinance, the council would have the authority to essentially amend or repeal that section of the ordinance requiring the two-thirds vote, and they could do that by simple majority adoption of another ordinance.
Well, then let it be that way. And also, I would say, Mr. Roussel, change it back to you had it originally, and if the president wants to veto it, and there's 6 votes to override the veto, that's fine, or whatever happens. But, I would rather take caution and protect this money and make it two-thirds vote. I totally agree with your ordinance, but I do think it should be shall. So if we have to sit in litigation and go back and forth on an interpretation of the charter, so be it. At least the money's in the bank and not getting spent.
And I concur with that. If I can get 6 votes to go for the declaratory judgment, I'll be glad to change it back to shall. I mean, this is a compromise that I was trying to work out with the administration. Administration had a problem with it, so we changed the language. However, if it's the will of this body to go forward with shall, I will change it back to shall. We'll override the veto when it comes up, and then we go for a declaratory judgment. If everybody agrees, that's where we're headed. All right. I'll reoffer with the word shall.
If I may, Chairman Bartholomew.
Mr. President?
Yes, Councilman Black, I'd refer you to Section 4.09.
I've read the charter.
Subsection C. Obviously, you didn't. subsection C, which states, "All ordinances, resolutions, or other actions of the parish council shall require the affirmative votes of a majority of the council members."
It shall require a minimum, sir, of a majority of the votes.
That's as clear as it gets.
That's a minimum.
That's as clear as it gets.
And my interpretation of
And
that...
there's also another section.
And I know I didn't
If
come
I may
second last
finish,
in my
if I
class
may
of law school,
finish,
but...
if I have the floor, there's also section 6.01H, which says, "No proposed ordinance shall be adopted except by the affirmative vote of a majority of the entire parish council." So, and then section I goes into two-thirds vote. So the charter addresses when two-thirds vote's needed and when an affirmative vote is needed. Now, I suggest if you have a problem with that, call a charter convention and let the people vote on it. But the people voted on this, Councilman Black, and the people affirmed this. And that's the proper way to change it.
Whenever you're ready, I'd like to talk.
I'll offer it with the...
Hold on. I want to just address him. I read the charter thoroughly. My interpretation from yours, sir, is differently. My interpretation in our special counsel that we hired is the same as mine. So I'm taking the advice of my counsel. I'm taking my opinion as the way I interpret the charter, as the way I'm going to vote. And the way I want to vote is with Mr. Roussel's original language. And if it passes and you want to veto it, and then if it's overridden, then we'll go through that process and we'll let a judge decide on the interpretation of the charter. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying we should sit up here and fight on the interpretation. That's not the forum for it, Mr. President. But I will say this is my interpretation, my opinion, and this is what I want to vote for, and we'll let the courts decide on whether or not the interpretation of you or me is correct. That's all.
Any comments from the table? Machine is open. Audience, I'm sorry, audience.
Yeah, the chair.
Welcome to the child game. We got the money, and guess what? Like I said earlier, here come the fighting. Starting off already. Let it roll.
I'll just comment on that, Mr. Henry. I'm not fighting with the president. I'm trying to protect this money from being used.
You got that 5-4 vote anyhow, so you can spend it any way you want to spend it. You got a 5-4 vote. You always had it, and that's what you have.
And that's why we're making it tougher to spend.
That's why I say, let it roll, because you can spend it any way you want to spend it.
I'm not understanding that answer, but...
Mr. President?
If I may, Councilman Black, again, the charter's clear. This money cannot be spent without a majority vote of the council. Nobody's questioning that. I mean, that's clearly what the charter says. So this just adds an additional element beyond, outside of the scope of the charter. It contravenes the charter. But nobody's here saying it's still the council. A majority of the council still controls how this money gets spent, what happens to this money.
Anybody from the audience? Machine is open. Six one passes.
Thank you.
Back to the order.
Beer and liquor licenses.
Councilman Black?
Yes, I have one I'm going to defer, and the reason why I'm going to defer it, I just want to make a note of why, is because this is for a liquor license, alcohol beverage application, and on page 2, it says that have you resided in Plaquemines continuously for a period not less than 2 years next preceding date of following this application. They check no, and I'm trying to find out from permits or from legal, possibly, or some research from my own office. I don't want to get in a situation like we had with the fireworks stands, where there was a reason why we had an ordinance that said you can't have a firework permit unless you've been a resident for 2 years. There's a reason why this question's on the application. I just want to make sure that we don't have an ordinance in place somewhere that prohibits folks from either a state law or a parish ordinance that prohibits folks from getting an alcohol or liquor license in the parish without being a resident for 2 years. So I'm going to defer that. I I'm going to go ahead and defer that.
Mr.
And also,
King?
Mr. F is deferred too.
I'm sorry?
F is deferred. I'm deferring F.
We defer to F, please. I thought we did that. 6F?
Yes, sir. Yep.
6F. 6F and J is deferred. 6F and J is deferred. Okay, Mr. Payne, you have any? Do you know, Mr. Russell?
None.
I have none. None. Okay. Building permits.
4A, number 1, McMoran Oil and Gas LLC, application number 2017-366, dated May 15, 2017. Plug and abandon wells and remove all other structures. West Delta Oil and Gas Field, Councilmember Williams.
Yes, go take the two permits.
Number 2, United Bulk Terminal, Dayvan LLC, application number 2017-300, dated April 13, 2017. Install storage pads, 14537 Highway 15, Dayvan, Councilmember Bartholomew.
Ms. Williams offers a second. Are there any questions from the table? Audience, permitting, are we okay? Permitting, are we okay? Okay. The machine is open. It passes 6-0. B and C, please.
C or B? B.
We're not doing B? Are we doing B and C? Okay. All right. B and C.
4B, J Bar Sportsman's Lodge, Jeff Johnson, Trailer Park Renewal, Galmeach and Doris Lane, Empire, Councilmember Edgecombe. Number C, Min Win Trailer Park, Van Than Tran, conditional approval for 9 additional trailer park spaces, Elizabeth Lane, Empire, Louisiana, Councilmember Edgecombe.
Offered by Mr. Edgecombe, second by Ms. Williams. Any questions from the table?
Mr. Mike, you finally got the information you need on that one?
So we good to go, right? Audience, none? Machine is open. It passes 7-0.
Introductions and ordinances and resolutions.
Mr. Black, Councilman Black.
Yes, I have 6. An ordinance to amend and adjust the fee schedule for emergency medical services provided by the Plaquemines Parish Fire Department and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2017 operating revenue budget, firefighting fund, ambulance department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2017 firefighting fund manpower structure and to authorize an emergency exception to the hiring freeze currently enacted on all vacant positions of the Plaquemines Parish government and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2017 firefighting fund manpower structure and operating expenditure budget, firefighting department, and otherwise to provide, and to authorize an emergency exception to the hiring freeze currently enacted on all vacant positions of the Plaquemines Parish government and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2017 firefighting fund manpower structure and operating expenditure budget, firefighting department, and to authorize an emergency exception to the hiring freeze currently enacted on all vacant positions of the Plaquemines Parish government and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance authorizing an emergency exception to the hiring freeze currently enacted on all vacant positions of the Plaquemines Parish government and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'd ask to be dismissed. Have somebody go.
Lapine? Mr. Juno?
Yeah, I have one. An ordinance to amend the 2017 Manpower Structure Flood Control Department and to authorize an emergency exception to the hiring freeze currently enacted on all vacant positions of Plaquemines Parish government and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. That's all.
Yeah, I have a resolution of the Plaquemines Parish Council in its role as the sole governing authority for the Plaquemines Port Harbor Terminal District to clarify the administrative operations of the Plaquemines Parish Port Harbor Terminal District as provided in resolution number 14-233 and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance authorizing an emergency exception to the hiring freeze currently enacted on all vacant positions of the Plaquemines Parish government for the internal auditor department and otherwise provide with respect thereto, and an ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan, diversion lamp project, and ridge and marsh creation Tiger Pass project, and otherwise with respect thereto. And with that introduction, I'd like to put the administration on notice to have some good explanation about the lamp project, how much money is going to be needed to move forward, because we'll have a healthy discussion on the coastal zone department and this introduction.
An ordinance authorizing the emergency exception of hiring freeze currently enacted at all vacancy positions of the Plaquemines Parish government, otherwise to provide with respect to an ordinance to amend the 2017 Boat Harbor and Shipyard Fund operating expenditure formula / Empire Beers Harbor and Empire Boat Harbor and Venice Harbor Department to authorize the emergency exception of hiring freeze currently enacted on all vacant positions of the Plaquemines Parish government, otherwise to provide respect thereto.
I have something, Ms. Audrey. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan by appropriating $1,500,000 to the Highway 23 4-lane expansion Port Sulphur project and otherwise provide with respect thereto. An ordinance by the Plaquemines Parish Council as and on behalf of the West Bank Levy District to appropriate new perpetual flood protection levee flood wall easements, new perpetual flood protection levee flood wall and drainage ditch easements, and new temporary work area easements in certain portions of lands in Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, to construct the New Orleans to Venice NOV-NF-W-05A.2 Myrtle Grove to Wood Park levee, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, for levee, flood wall, drainage, flood, access, and hurricane protection purposes, and otherwise provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan by appropriating for the payment of LERDs, land easements, rights of way, relocations, and disposal sites for the New Orleans to Venice NOV-NFL levee projects and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan by appropriating $4,675,826 to the Plaquemines Parish Hazard Mitigation Grant Program project and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Ms. Williams.
An ordinance to amend the 2017 Solid Waste Disposal Fund manpower structure and operating expenditure budget Solid Waste District 2 Department and to authorize an emergency exception to the hiring freeze currently enacted on all vacant positions of Plaquemines Parish government and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll go to the ordinance and resolution for the second reading and final passage.
6A3. An ordinance to amend Article 6, Chapter 14 of the Plaquemines Parish Code of Ordinances relative to commercial film production and to provide other matters related thereto.
I offer with the changes that's just passed out. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, second. This is the up version of the latest for the film permitting department. What, anything you need to add to that, Mr. Metcalf?
Mr. Chairman, we'll continue to do our best. I can pledge that to you. We'll continue to do our best.
Any questions from the table? Yeah. All right. And what's going to happen? I'm coming back. I'm going to introduce the one that I introduced last week to rescind it for this side, and we have one permitting. Any audience? Anybody? The machine is open. It passes 6-0.
Number 4. An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of property of lots JRL-2 and JRL-3, Langridge Subdivision, and Lot C1, Concord Canal Subdivision, Belle Chase Parish of Plaquemines, into Lot JRL-2A, Langridge Subdivision, and Lots C1A and C1B, Concord Canal Subdivision, Belle Chase, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as shown on the plans and plat of survey by Dufresne Surveying and Engineering, Inc., dated February 6, 2017. The owner having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the parish of Plaquemines without cost to Plaquemines parish government or the parish of Plaquemines and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
I'll offer it as filed.
Second.
This is,
Table.
this is a private subdivision. They'll be responsible for all utilities, so it puts no burden on us. 3 lots.
That's correct.
Any questions from the table? Audience, machine is open.
Thank you.
Number 5.
6-0. Go ahead.
An ordinance to authorize and direct the parish president for and on behalf of the Plaquemines Parish government to enter into and execute any and all agreements necessary and proper for formal acceptance of the dedication of and granting a servitude for a public road by the owners of property through and on over which the present Lividay Lane located in Phoenix Subdivision and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
I'd like to offer, and what we're doing, just getting them to draw up the plans for the subdivision in Phoenix. That way we do have the sewer line running down the middle, and it's a public street anyway, so just to dedicate it as a public street. Is there a second? Is there a second? Is there a second? All right, everybody's died for lack of second. Because I'm not voting for no more permitting on no subdivision. But this is a subdivision that was already approved by the government. Next, please.
6H, an ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan, drainage improvements, Main Street/Avenue G project, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
I'm amended with changes, offer with changes. Yeah, legal. Give me, okay. No, I got it. You got it?
Changes are on line 9 and 10, striking the words from the general fund unreserved/undesignated fund balance. On line 11, adding from the 2017 general fund operating expenditure budget. Line number 12, adding legal services department as follows. Lines 13 through 24 is adding a chart that shows where all the money is being moved from. $2,000 from operating services advertising, $2,000 from operating services publication legal notice, $2,000 from operating services duplicating typing and binding, $5,000 from professional services investigation, and $6,200 from juror and witness fees expert testimony.
If there's any problems, Mr. Dugas here to answer the question.
Second.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Russo. Any comments? Table? Audience? Six zero.
Thank you.
6I, an ordinance to amend the 2017 Boat Harbors and Shipyards Fund operating expenditure budget, Boat Harbors, Point Lahash Department, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Defer, please.
M, a resolution authorizing the parish president or his designee to do all things necessary and proper to negotiate, perfect, and execute a CEA with the Plaquemines Parish School Board for for the emergency use of its electrician and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Offer. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Lapine. Any questions from the table? Audience, machine is open. It passes 6-0.
N, a resolution authorizing the parish president on behalf of the Plaquemines Parish government to name and accept the proposal of the blank as the official journal for the Plaquemines Parish Council and all other political subdivisions and districts situated therein, of which the Plaquemines Parish Council is the governing authority.
I'd like to offer with the changes to fill in the blank with Plaquemines Gazette. Changes on line 44, 56, 64, and 70.
That's at the reduced rate?
I offer those blanks at their second. Second by Mr. Acecombe. Questions from the table? Audience, machine is open. 6-0.
6-0, an ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan resurface/striping Highway 15 project and to amend the 2017 general fund manpower structure and operating expenditure budget, swimming pools Day Van Department, and to authorize an emergency exception to the hiring freeze currently enacted on all vacant positions of Plaquemines Parish government and otherwise to provide with respect thereto, and it's for 2 temporary helpers.
Like to, all temporary, word where it says temporary on line 19 and 39 and 40, scratch it out. Because there is no position that says temporary within our workforce. And I so offer with those changes. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Acecombe. Are there any questions from the table? Any comments from the audience? The machine is open. It passes 6-0. Thank you.
6R, a resolution authorizing the parish president or his designee to do all things necessary and proper to negotiate, perfect, execute, and enforce a settlement and compromise agreement in the case of Lynn Porter, Ann Porter, and Eric Harvey versus Billy Dufresne, AT&T Fleet Licensing and Old Republic Insurance Company, number 60-975, Division B, 25th Judicial District Court, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
I'll offer with the following change, and the only change is that we scratched out on line 9, Plaquemines government, we scratching out after that, to lease. It should say to settle. It was a typo.
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Alphabet Russell, second by Mr. Juno. Any questions from the table? Audience?
We're looking at getting no less than $60,000 paid to us.
So that's one of the ordinances we didn't vote on last time. We just decided after second. It passes 6-0.
I'm going to defer 6R.
Yes or R? You just pass R.
I passed, yeah, I'm sorry. Wait a minute. Yeah, I want to pass Porter and defer the other one.
S is deferred.
Yes.
Number 7, new business. There are no introductions of resolutions wherein suspension is being sought. 7B, update and presentation by District 7, defer.
Deferred.
7C, update by administration on water compliance projects and loan application. Councilmember Roussel.
We had a discussion on this earlier. I don't know that we need to do any further discussion. All I'm asking for is the amount of water that was lost on the non-read and how many percentage that might be over the overall 40% that we we can't find. So I'll defer the item.
7E, discussion regarding Port Eads, Councilmember Bartholomew.
Yeah, police, defer.
7H, update by the administrations on its action taken in regards to resolution number 16-274, wherein the president or his designee was authorized to ensure all employees met the requirements of their positions, qualifications, licenses, etc., and all were up to date. Councilmember Williams.
I yield to you, Ms. Williams. I'll go back to F.
Yeah, that's why I got up and went to the garbage can. Mr. President, I would urge you to look into this. This is another civil service issue. There may be employees that don't have the qualifications for the jobs that they're holding. Since we are maybe rehiring some additional people, I just urge you to look into everyone's position and make sure that they're meeting those qualifications. If they aren't, please address it accordingly. And if you can provide an update with, your findings, I would greatly appreciate it.
My apologies, Mr. Roussel. My apologies, Mr. Roussel. 7H, status report on the maintenance of East Bayou Road and Walker Roads. Councilmember Roussel.
Yes, I'd like to get a status on that. I've talked to the residents, and some work was done on Walker Road, but they're not feeling the love over there on East Bayou Road.
And the other road in front, 2 roads, okay? We put 24 loads of limestone on those roads in the last 2 weeks. Now, the road grader just got back in the last 2 weeks. It was one of the first jobs that we put on those 2 jobs over there. Okay. It was clarified on East Bayou Road, East Bayou Road by the administration that we could do that road. That was donated a while back, a long time ago, and he had no records on it, and I think Shannon Landry found it and gave me an okay 2 weeks ago to do those 2 roads.
I didn't understand a word you said.
Yes.
You have the mic.
Is this in my file?
Yeah, man, that's what's going on, man. I was just getting the loads.
On, there were 24 loads placed onto East Bayou Road within the last 2 weeks, at a cost of $8,300.
On East Bayou Road?
Yes.
Correct.
Well, my constituents are telling me that we've done some work on Walker Road, but once you get past the pump station on East Bayou Road, they don't see it. So I'll defer the item till the next meeting, and they can come back with their pictures, and they can come back with their comments. So I'll defer the item.
Six I, discussion regarding the building known as the Pumpkin. That's okay. 6J, discussion of constituent right of entry forms. Councilmember Bartholomew.
Refer to legal.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We've had a few issues with the forms that have been given out to y'all's offices. They require a notary at present to give the parish agencies and employees permission to enter onto their property, go fix stuff. this is probably unnecessary, so we're going to be changing up the forms. So in the meantime, just scratch that out. We don't need a notary, because what happens is we get the form anyway from y'all, and then we're expected to notarize it when it gets to us, but we can't do that legally or ethically. So just so people don't have to go and pay to get a notary every time they need a constituent service, we go scratch that out, and we're going to give y'all some new forms.
Could you elaborate what the form is used for?
This would be like if somebody has a complaint about a ditch that's a parish ditch and it needs to be cleaned out, but the access is such that you have to cross through a person's property to get to it. It would be in that situation, Mr. Rousseau. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the table? Audience? Next, please.
7L, consideration of action to direct counsel in regard to litigation entitled Mike Mudge et al. Versus Plaquemines Parish Council et al., 25th JDC case number 60-909, Division A.
We're going to defer that. Also deferred M. Sergeant Kose is not here. So we go to N.
N's already been done.
8.
Approval of minutes from the May 11, 2017 meeting.
Offered second by Mr. Basecom and Ms. Williams. Machine is open. It passes 6-0. I'd like to go back to 5 right quick. Introduction of ordinance, resolution ordinance. A resolution to rescind annual set-aside resolution number 17-12 adopted April 13, 2017, wherein there was a temporary suspension on any and all movie, television, commercial filming in District 1 of Plaquemines Parish, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance authorizing directing parish president for and on behalf of the Plaquemines Parish government to enter into and execute any and all agreement necessary, formally and formal, accepting the dedication of the grant, servitude for the public road owned by the property through and over which the present Liberty Lane is located in Phoenix Subdivision, otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to confirm the Director of Recreation. That's all I have. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Offered by Mr. Acecombe, second by Ms. Williams. The machine is open. It passes 6-0. It is 5:53. The council meeting is adjourned.